Chapter 5565. As sect leader Lu's life force was completely cut off, the surroundings were in an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the death of Elder Yin or Yin Haoguang, everyone was extremely calm. This was because even though the two of them had a high status in the Crimson Moon sect, they were not considered to be very impressive figures in the entire Penglai Island. However, sect leader Lu was a completely different matter. He was the sect leader of the Crimson Moon sect. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had casually asked sect leader Lu to step down from his position, most of the people thought that it was just a show of strength. Who would have thought that Di Baichen would be so decisive and kill sect leader Lu in one move? This was simply too shocking. Heavens, even sect leader Lu is no match for Di Baichen. I'm afraid that the Crimson Moon sect is completely finished. What do we do now? I wonder if Bailey Hongzhuang will vent her anger on the entire Crimson Moon sect because of this matter? Why don't we just leave the sect and not go back? That's right, it's better not to go back at a time like this in case we get into trouble. In an instant, many disciples of the Crimson Moon sect panicked. Most of the people on the Crimson Moon Island were disciples of the Crimson Moon sect. Moreover, this matter was related to their teacher. Hence, many disciples had come to observe. Who would have thought that they would see such a scene? Their sect leader was killed right in front of their eyes. Moreover, his methods were swift and decisive. There was no room for negotiation at all. Incidents where an entire sect was destroyed because of disagreements had happened frequently in history. Absolute powerhouses did things according to their moods and would start a massacre at the slightest disagreement. They were not willing to be buried together with Yin Haoguang. At this moment, everyone's hearts were scattered. Even though they had worked hard for a long time to join one of the three great forces, they did not care anymore. Even though the cultivators were discussing softly, Bailey Hongzhuang could still hear them clearly. Just as the cultivators were hesitating on how to get rid of this matter, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly rang out. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Today's grudge has been settled. I'm not someone who would kill the innocent. Everyone, there's no need to worry. Her exquisite face was filled with confidence. Just by standing there quietly, she emitted an endless amount of brilliance. Everyone's heart shivered as they stared at the proud and peerless figure. This woman was truly exceptional. Even more cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very clear. She would not pursue this matter any further. The people who originally thought that something terrible had happened suddenly felt that it wasn't as bad as they thought. Although the sect master had fallen, they didn't have a good impression of him. Moreover, because of Yin Haoguang's tyrannical behavior, many cultivators were bullied by him. Now that these few fellows had disappeared, the Crimson Moon sect might be in a different situation. After the matter was settled, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't linger. Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng both needed to be treated and recuperated, so they quickly left the arena. Bai Tsangming's group of three naturally followed closely behind, and they casually found a restaurant on the street to stay in. Young Master Lan, young Master Yu, we are truly sorry this time. Bai Tsangming cupped his hands with an apologetic expression. We didn't investigate this matter clearly. If we had done so earlier, you wouldn't have been injured. Chapter 5566. Lan Yinxiao was also shocked to see Bai Tsangming apologize to him. Although this was his first time meeting Bai Tsangming, he already knew that he was the palace master of Penglai Palace from his conversations with others. He hadn't been in Penglai Island for long, but Penglai Palace was extremely famous. He didn't expect its palace master to apologize to him so apologetically. He immediately said, Palace Master Bai, you're too polite. This matter was caused by us. It has nothing to do with you, so there's no need to apologize. No. Bai Tsangming shook his head. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen have made great contributions to our Penglai Palace. We should take good care of you. I'm truly sorry. That's right. We didn't handle this matter well. I hope you two can forgive us. Long Yanwei also spoke up. He didn't say this because of his status in Penglai Palace, but because he was a friend of Bailey Hongzhuang's group. He should have taken good care of his friend's family. Unfortunately, he didn't do that. He was truly ashamed. Seeing this, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng exchanged glances. They immediately understood that if Bailey Hongzhuang didn't relent, Bai Tsangming and the rest wouldn't be at ease. Yu Linfeng immediately signaled Bailey Hongzhuang with his eyes. After noticing her master's worry, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "Palace Master Lord Long, you don't need to feel guilty. I know the whole story. If it were me, I would have made the same decision as you. After all, if you talk about this matter too much, everyone will suspect the truth." Lan Yunxiao and Long Yanwei roughly guessed the reason after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. When they first came to Penglai Island, they inquired about the news of Bailey Hongzhuang. When they inquired, the other party was very willing to talk to them, but when they revealed their identity, the other party directly rolled their eyes and didn't want to talk to them at all. At that time, they felt it was very strange. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were clearly doing well on Penglai Island. They shouldn't have such a reaction to them. However, when they learned that many people had announced that they were Bailey Hongzhuang's family before they came, they completely understood. They felt very helpless about this. Bai Tsangming and the rest quietly sighed in relief. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang's family was fine. If something had really happened, their relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang would have been completely cut off. "Hongzhuang, what's your plan now? Do you want to return to Penglai Island?" Long Yanwei asked with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "We'll stay here. We originally planned to make a trip home, so we might stay on Scarlet Moon Island for a while. When my father and the rest recover from their injuries, we'll return home. Thank you for leading the way today. If it wasn't for you, we might not have made it in time." "Since that's the case, we won't disturb your rest," said Long Yanwei. "If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave first." Bai Tsangming stood up. Yu Linfeng clearly still needed to recuperate. If they stayed here, it would be a waste of time. "Di Beichen, send the palace master and the rest off," Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. "All right," Di Beichen replied. "I'll send you out." Chapter 5567. "Hongzhuang, I finally met you." Lan Yunxiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in pleasant surprise, his handsome face filled with joy and rejoicing. "It's been more than 3 years since you left last time. Although we received your letter last time, we haven't received any news since then. That's why we came here to look for you. But we didn't expect to fall into such a situation. If you hadn't arrived in time, our lives would have been in danger." Her melodious voice was filled with sighs, but it didn't affect Lan Yunxiao's good mood. His daughter and son-in-law had grown up to be so outstanding. He was truly proud of them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt guilty. With her father and master's status in the outside world, there was no need for them to come here. But because they were worried about them, they rushed over and almost lost their lives. "Father, I went to the upper realm because of some accident and didn't have time to inform you. But after I went there, I was told I couldn't come back. It took so long before I had the chance to come back." "I understand. You must have been tied down by something." Lan Yunxiao smiled and rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's head. "You've always been very filial. If there wasn't a reason, it's impossible for there to be no news of you. But the most fortunate thing is that Beichen's cursed body has been resolved. Now you can live well." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. "Yes. We were too willful when we left without saying goodbye. We're really sorry." Di Beichen took the initiative to apologize after returning. Although they didn't want their elders to take risks for them, they also understood that leaving without saying goodbye would make everyone feel uncomfortable. "Silly child, don't tell me we still don't understand why you did this. It's because you're too sensible that we want to do more." Lan Yunxiao didn't blame them at all. He knew that these children were very opinionated. Once they made up their minds, no one could change them no matter what others said. He also understood that young people like to roam the world, so it was only natural. "By the way, Hongzhuang, have you been to the Di family?" Yu Linfeng asked with concern. Following Yu Linfeng's words, Lan Yunxiao straightened his expression and looked at Di Beichen. "Beichen, we never thought that you would have such an extraordinary background. However, even if you go to the upper realm, I hope that you can protect Hongzhuang well. Although our power is nothing compared to the Di family, if you dare to bully Hongzhuang, we will fight with our lives." Lan Yunxiao's magnetic voice was heavy and serious. His sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through all of Di Beichen thoughts. He was very satisfied with this son-in-law. But if Di Beichen changed his mind after going to the upper realm, he wouldn't let his daughter be bullied. Di Beichen also became serious. Father, don't worry. With me here, I definitely won't let anyone bully Hong Zhuang. Lan Yunxiao stared fixedly at Di Beichen. After seeing the sincerity in his eyes, he nodded. All right, I believe you. Chapter 55-68. On the side, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying hadn't spoken until now. Only at this moment did Xiren speak with a smile. Uncle, don't worry. Beichen's family values Hong Zhuang even more than Beichen. The entire family treats her as a treasure, so no one will bully her. That's right. Shangguan Yingying followed up. Hong Zhuang is so outstanding. Even though there are countless talented cultivators in the upper realm, Hong Zhuang still surpasses them all. You don't know, but among the younger generation in the upper realm, Hong Zhuang and Beichen are top-notch. Hearing Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's words, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng revealed smiles. From the way the two of them spoke, they knew that everything they said was the truth. It seemed that their previous worries were unnecessary. Yunxiao, I told you, with Hong Zhuang's ability, there won't be a problem no matter where she goes. Yu Linfeng chuckled, his face relaxed. Even though his injuries were quite serious, his expression became much better due to his joy. Lan Yunxiao nodded with a smile. Indeed, as a father, I've worried too much. Father, I know you're worried about me. Bailey Hong Zhuang was moved. This was family. They were always worried about her. That's right. How are mother and master's wife? Other than missing you, everything else is fine. Bailey Hong Zhuang faintly smiled and said, Master, you've been seriously injured this time. I'll help you treat your injuries first. When your condition improves, we'll leave. How about it? Even though Yu Linfeng had already taken a pill, his condition had only improved slightly. There were more problems that needed to be treated. Lan Yunxiao replied, Hong Zhuang, quickly take a look at your master. His injuries are very serious, and he's been poisoned for a long time. We can't let anything happen to him. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded. Father, don't worry. I won't let anything happen to Master. The news of the Scarlet Moon sect Master's death had spread throughout the entire Punglai Island in a short period of time. The cultivators who had witnessed this matter with their own eyes had even vividly described the entire matter from beginning to end. The fall of a sect leader was explosive news for the entire Punglai Island. However, when the crowd found out that the attackers were Di Beichen and Bailey Hong Zhuang, they accepted it. What shocked them the most was that Lan Yunxiao's identity was real. For a moment, many people cried out in regret. If they'd known earlier, they would have built a good relationship with Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxi. Then they would have received many benefits. Otherwise, they would have risen to the heavens. Unfortunately, they hadn't grasped such a good opportunity. It was easy to imagine how depressed they were. With Bailey Hong Zhuang's treatment, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng's conditions improved quickly. Although Yu Linfeng had been poisoned for a long time and would leave behind some hidden dangers, with Bailey Hong Zhuang's help and the help of heavenly treasures, it wasn't difficult to cure him. After staying on Scarlet Moon Island for several days, the group finally set off on their return journey. So this is a flying artifact. Yu Linfeng looked at the flying car in front of him with admiration. Chapter 55-69. Seeing the two elders' curious expressions, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others couldn't help but smile. Father, Master, you'll know once it's activated. Lan Yunxiao suspiciously glanced at Bailey Hong Zhuang. They had never seen such a new treasure before. However, he also understood that it was most likely extremely effective. Otherwise, these little fellows wouldn't have been able to reach Scarlet Moon Island so quickly. As Di Beichen controlled the flying car to leave the outside world, Lan Yunxiao and the other man felt the frightening speed, and deep shock appeared in their eyes. I didn't think we'd be able to travel faster than I expected. It seems we've spent close to 2 months to get to Punglai Island. Now it will probably take less than a month for us to return. Yu Linfeng could not help but sigh. Master, you will arrive in about 7 days. When Xiren smiled, Yu Linfeng's eyes narrowed. In truth, he also felt that this speed might be a bit faster than what he said. However, to arrive in less than half a month was truly astonishing. They were very clear on how far they had traveled when they first arrived. In fact, they were already traveling at their fastest speed. Previously, we spent quite a bit of time on this sea, and had to face the attacks of demonic beasts. Now that this flying car is flying in the sky, it's naturally extremely fast. Lan Yunxiao revealed a smile, thinking that he would soon be able to return and see everyone he was familiar with. His mood became extremely good. That's true. Yu Linfeng nodded. This flying car is truly a great treasure for traveling. With it, we can save quite a bit of time. Although there were many transportation arrays between cities, there were even more remote places that needed to be traveled. Thus, the journey would take a lot of time. With such a powerful tool, it would undoubtedly be much more convenient. Master Yu, if you like it, I'll give this flying car to you. Di Beichen smiled. Yu Linfeng waved his hand. I can't accept this. So what? Di Beichen's expression was calm, as if it was only natural. Lan Yunxiao was very clear on how well Yu Linfeng had treated Bailey Hongzhuang. Not only did he give the rainbow pearl to Hongzhuang, he didn't even hide the matter of the stairway to heaven from her. If it weren't for Yu Linfeng's help, many things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Lan Yunxiao had always remembered this favor in his heart. Although the flying car was precious, it couldn't compare to this friendship. Seeing Di Beichen's generous and sincere appearance, Yu Linfeng's smile became increasingly warm and amiable. As a senior, I can't accept the younger generation's things. And this thing in your hands will be in your hands, it's more useful. As long as you can properly develop your development, I will be happy. The simple words fell into the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but they couldn't help but feel touched. Only the elders who truly cared about them would say such words. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately said, Father, we didn't come here just to visit family. Lan Yunxiao raised his brows, and his expression became more serious. What other important matters do you have? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen exchanged glances. Di Beichen said, This time, we want to bring all of you to the upper realm. Chapter 5570. You plan to bring us to the upper realm? A trace of doubt appeared in Lan Yunxiao's eyes. Isn't it said that only cultivators who have reached the Starlight Realm can go there? With our current cultivation, there's still a gap. Don't worry, we've already looked into this problem. Di Beichen's lips curled up. We'll bring you along. Everything else isn't a problem, so there's no need to worry. Hearing this, Lan Yunxiao came to a realization. It seemed that Di Beichen's status in the upper realm wasn't simple. He could actually break this rule. But even so, they still had many misgivings. Even if we can go to the upper realm now, the experts there are as many as the clouds. With our current cultivation, I'm afraid that only death awaits us. Yu Linfeng frowned. He did look forward to the upper realm, but he was even more aware of the gap between them. If their cultivation wasn't enough, they could only rely on the Di family's help. They were originally worried that Hongzhuang would be discriminated against in the Di family because of her poor background. If they brought along a bunch of burdens like them, wouldn't it affect Hongzhuang's status even more? Master, don't worry. Although our current strength can't catch up to the cultivators in the upper realm, the cultivation resources there are abundant. Your cultivation speed will be faster. And I believe that it won't be long before you can catch up to everyone else. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of confidence in this point. Whether it was her father or master, their cultivation talent was extremely outstanding. It wasn't that the cultivators in the lower realm weren't as talented as those in the upper realm. It was because of the different environment and cultivation resources, resulting in the gap in cultivation. But as long as they went to the upper realm, and made up for the gap in cultivation resources, even if they were still several years behind others, she believed that with her father's talent, they would be able to catch up quickly. It had to be known that whether it was her father or master, they were all first-rate geniuses in everyone's eyes. Even she might not be able to compare to them. I still feel that this isn't appropriate, Lan Yunxiao said in a deep voice. Lan Yunxiao said solemnly, Let's wait until we have the strength to go to the upper realm. Yu Linfeng looked at Lan Yunxiao, and immediately guessed Lan Yunxiao's thoughts. He was probably worried about the same thing as him. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang heard Lan Yunxiao's refusal, she couldn't help but frown with doubt and confusion. "Father, why is that? Penglai Island is very dangerous, and you are not familiar with it, so it is not convenient for you to stay here. Once I go to the upper realm, it'll be very troublesome for me to come back. I'm always worried about you guys. What I want the most right now is to get closer to you guys." Bailey Hongzhuang seriously gazed at Lan Yunxiao. This was what she was currently thinking. After going to the upper realm, although Beichen's family was there, she couldn't help but feel sad and worried when she thought of her own family. It would be best if everyone could stay in the upper realm together. Moreover, it would be more beneficial for everyone's development. For cultivators, increasing their cultivation was something that no one was willing to give up. She knew very well that even though her father and master's status was very high now, they had never slacked off in terms of cultivation. Chapter 5571. Lan Yunxiao couldn't bear to see the hope in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. In truth, what Bailey Hongzhuang said was exactly what he felt. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang had been separated from them at such a young age. After so many years, they had finally reunited, but now they were separated again. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had left, Mu Lingbing had been nagging them every day, hoping that they would come back soon. He was well aware of his wife's thoughts. Because they had been separated for so many years, he had always felt indebted to Hongzhuang. Thus, the two of them only hoped that they would have the chance to spend more time with Hongzhuang and stay by her side. Even though they knew that Hongzhuang had to go out and train, they only hoped that she would be able to see them when she returned. That would be the happiest thing for them. If it were any other place in the lower realms, they wouldn't have to worry too much. However, Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go to the upper realms. It was too inconvenient for her to travel back and forth. Even though Hongzhuang's heart was tied to them, it wasn't easy for her to come back often. However, as a father, he had to consider Hongzhuang more. Although reuniting was what they wanted, relying on Hongzhuang like this wasn't too appropriate. However, they could work hard to reach the Starlight Realm as soon as possible, and then head to the upper realms. Although they would still be low-level existences in the upper realms, at least they would have a legitimate reason to go there. "Hongzhuang, there's no need for you to say anything more. I've already made up my mind." Lan Yunxiao hardened his heart and spoke resolutely. "We've stayed in the lower realms for so many years. Our roots have long been planted here. How could it be so easy to leave?" Yu Linfeng spoke up. "I understand. This is indeed a problem. However, going to the upper realms doesn't mean that we can't come back. We can leave the sect and family matters to trusted people to manage, and return here from time to time. If there are outstanding cultivators, we can even bring them to the upper realm. This way, we can slowly stabilize in the upper realm. Isn't that great?" For this point, Bailey Hongzhuang had already thought about it. She understood that it was not easy to make up her mind to give up many things in the lower realms. However, going to the upper realms was indeed a better opportunity for her to develop. Now that they could come to the lower realms so easily, there might be other cultivators from the upper realm coming here in the future. If that really happened, then her family would undoubtedly be the first to be affected. She did not wish for such a thing to happen. Rather than that, it was better to experience the cruelty of the world earlier and adapt to it. At that time, he naturally wouldn't have to worry about these things. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's serious persuasion, Yu Linfeng also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had probably already made up their minds and considered all kinds of problems before coming here. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not consider their considerations. Even if she felt helpless, she could only choose to reject them. "Hongzhuang, this matter isn't as simple as you think. In my opinion, you should stay in the upper realm for now. Let's talk about our matters in the future." Yu Linfeng sighed. Chapter 5572. The interior of the carriage suddenly quieted down. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying tactfully remained silent. In truth, They didn't understand why Lan Yunxiao would refuse. This was indeed a very good opportunity. They also wanted to bring the people closest to them to the upper realm when they returned. But after witnessing this scene, their confidence was shaken. Indeed, it wasn't an easy decision to give up so many things. Master, I don't understand why they would refuse. Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with doubt. Actually, the Lan family has so many elders. Even if the family head isn't present, it's the same with the elders overseeing the clan. In truth, many family heads didn't stay in the clan. Once their strength reached a certain level, the family heads would go out to experience the world and increase their cultivation. Unless something major happened, they wouldn't stay here forever. Logically speaking, with the Lan family's current situation, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with this. As for the Tiangang sect, it was the same situation. Previously, Di Baichen and Situ Yin had been away for a long time, but nothing had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Perhaps I've thought too simply of this matter. Father and the others have other considerations that I didn't think of. Although she didn't know what her father was worried about, she believed that he wouldn't make such a decision without sufficient reason. Di Baichen didn't say a word during the entire process, but he kept an eye on Lan Yunxiao and Shengguan Yingying's reactions. He clearly noticed the hesitation and helplessness in Lan Yunxiao's eyes. After carefully pondering it for a moment, a guess suddenly appeared in his mind. No matter how he thought about it, there was no other reason that made more sense than this. Knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's gloominess, Di Baichen quietly held her hand. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and heard Di Baichen's transmission. Wife, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. But father and the others are very resolute. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to convince them. There was a hint of sadness in Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes, but she wasn't too conflicted. After all, she couldn't consider everything from her own point of view. As long as her parents were happy, she was willing to do anything. Although it was more troublesome to come from the upper realm to the lower realm, as long as one had the heart, it was not a problem. Di Baichen smiled slightly. Don't worry. If I say I can solve it, it will definitely be solved. When have I ever disappointed you? Seeing how confident Di Baichen was, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be affected by his mood. She immediately raised the corner of her lips into a faint smile. Then I'll wait for your good news. No problem. After a moment of silence, Lan Yunxiao took the initiative to break the deadlock. Hongzhuang, you said earlier that Linfeng had been poisoned for a long time without the antidote, so his foundation was damaged. Has this problem been completely resolved? Following Lan Yunxiao's words, Yu Linfeng couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned this earlier, he was startled. As a cultivator, one's foundation was undoubtedly extremely important. Many people's cultivation stagnated due to their foundation being damaged. This was what he was most worried about. Chapter 5573. Because Master has been poisoned for a long time, his foundation has indeed been damaged. I have already tried my best to solve this problem, but it hasn't been completely cured. Yu Linfeng's pupil shrank. This was what he was most worried about. However, Master, you don't have to be too worried. Because the poison he used is a slow-acting poison, it will take some time to completely cure it. It can't be completely cured in a short period of time. But with heavenly treasures and proper recuperation to stabilize your foundation, it can still be solved. Her warm and gentle voice had a reassuring power, causing Yu Linfeng, who was originally extremely nervous, to quietly relax a little. He didn't know whether Bailey Hongzhuang said these words to reassure him, but he had always believed in Hongzhuang's ability. Since she said these words, it proved that there should be a way to solve it. Bailey Hongzhuang also rejoiced in this point. Because the poison Yan Haoguang used wasn't very strong, it didn't have a big impact. If it was a powerful poison master, then it would be much more troublesome. A genius like Master couldn't leave behind an unmentionable illness because of this matter. That would be too much of a pity. Lan family. Inside the room, two women sat opposite each other. Their stunningly beautiful faces were currently filled with worry. One of the women wearing a fiery red dress couldn't help but stand up. Her delicate and adorable face was tightly knitted together, and her voice was filled with worry and impatience. Sister Mu, do you think they're doing well on Punglai Island? Nangong Wu paced back and forth. She was originally an impatient person, and simply couldn't calm down. Now I really feel that I should have gone with them. Even if they encounter danger, it's nothing. It's better than being frightened here. Looking at Nangong Wu's anxious appearance, although Mu Lingbing's expression was calm, she actually had the same thoughts in her heart. Back then, Hong Zhuang and Beichen left first, followed by Yin Xiao and Lin Feng. They were so far away, so they simply couldn't obtain the corresponding news. If it was outside, no matter where the two of them went, they wouldn't be worried. However, Punglai Island was a place where geniuses gathered. Even with their strength, it was nothing special there. Once they encountered an expert, the result would be hard to say. Wu, don't be too anxious. It's useless to be anxious. Mu Lingbing sighed. From the day they set out, we knew that they wouldn't be able to return in a short time. Punglai Island is far away, and it takes 2 months to rush to and fro for months. Furthermore, they still have to work hard there to improve their cultivation. When Nangong Wu heard this, she slumped onto the table dejectedly, and a trace of sadness appeared on her pretty face. But I really can't help but worry. I heard that many experts have fallen there. As a cultivator, she had long been used to seeing life and death. She was even more aware that almost every moment, there would be people dying. However, she could not accept such a thing happening to her. Ever since she got together with Yu Linfeng, he was the most important person in her life. If something happened to Yu Linfeng, it would be a heavy blow to her life that she couldn't bear. Mu Lingbing's heart also tightened. In fact, she didn't have many pursuits. After experiencing that incident, what she cared about the most was reuniting with her family. Chapter 5574. I hope they can all come back safely. Mu Lingbing couldn't help praying. Ever since Hong Zhuang left, she had been praying that the children would be safe. However, from what Di Yujua said, Hong Zhuang and Beichen should be living in the Di family now. With the Di family's strength, they shouldn't have any problems. Why don't we go look for them? Nangong Wu couldn't help but suggest. When Yu Linfeng said he wanted to go first, she had objected. However, in the end, she couldn't win against Yu Linfeng and stayed. As Yu Linfeng left longer and longer, she became more and more worried. She couldn't help but want to go to Punglai Island to look for him. Looking at Nangong Wu's anxious expression, Mu Lingbing grabbed her hand and said, Wu, did you forget what they told us before they left? Especially Linfeng. He especially told me to keep an eye on you, and not let you go to Punglai Island. Think about it, the two of them are stronger than us. If they can't handle it, how can we handle it? If they can handle it, then we don't need to trouble them. So no matter how worried we are, we have to wait. Mu Lingbing's expression was resolute. Although her heart had already flown to Punglai Island, her reason told her that she couldn't be impulsive. If they wanted to go, they would have gone together. She could understand what Yun Xiao and Mu Lingbing were thinking. So no matter how helpless they were, they couldn't be willful. Hearing Mu Lingbing's words, Nangong Wu sighed. It seems like there's really no other way. Don't think about it. I believe they'll come back safely. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly. Have some snacks. No, I'm not in the mood. Nangong Wu shook her head. I'd better go back and cultivate. I hope my cultivation can improve quickly, so that I can go with them. In the past, she didn't pay much attention to cultivation. However, this was what she regretted the most. If he was strong enough, there would be no need for him to wait here. Seeing this, Mu Lingbing nodded slightly. Both she and Mu Lingbing had been working especially hard during this period of time. At least when they were cultivating, they didn't spend all their time worrying and longing for each other. After a few days of flying, Di Beichen's group was getting closer and closer to their destination. Sensing the gradually familiar aura, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Unknowingly, he had already left this place for so long. It really felt like a lifetime had passed. Fortunately, everyone was back. Let's go to my house first. Bailey Hongzhuang looked in the direction, which was the closest to the Lan family. Di Beichen and the others naturally had no objections. They subconsciously looked at Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. We don't have a problem either. When Xiren smiled faintly, anyway, there's a teleportation array between the Lan family and Tiangang sect. It's very convenient for us to come and go. As for the Heavenly Dipper sect to the Cloud Sword sect, they had traveled back and forth so many times, and were even more familiar with it. That's good. We'll be arriving at the family soon. Di Baichen smiled. Although the upper realm was his home, it had to be said that this was the place where he had lived for the longest time. Even if he felt the air of his hometown, there was a unique sense of familiarity. Chapter 5575. The flying carriage stopped in front of the Lan family's illusory array, and the 6 of them got off. Di Baichen put away the flying carriage. Lan Yunxiao took a few steps forward and opened the illusory array with great familiarity. The Lan family's appearance appeared before everyone's eyes. Come, let's go in quickly. Lan Yunxiao's voice was filled with lightness and joy. His distinguished and elegant appearance, coupled with his brilliant smile, truly made him a first-rate handsome man. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other before following closely behind Lan Yunxiao. Look, is that the patriarch? Suddenly, a sharp-eyed Lan family disciple noticed the approaching figures and couldn't help but cry out in pleasant surprise. Along with this disciple's voice, the other disciples all turned their gazes, and when they clearly saw who it was, joy appeared on everyone's faces. It's not just the patriarch, there's also the young miss and young master. Heavens, this is truly great news. Quickly go inform the madam. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly approached. Seeing the familiar faces before them, everyone completely relaxed. A kind of joy spread from the bottom of their hearts. This kind of feeling was something that couldn't be given by anything else. We're finally back. This feeling is truly great. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Even if this was only the Lan family, and not the Cloud Sword sect that she was familiar with, she already had this kind of feeling. When she returned to the Cloud Sword sect, presumably this kind of feeling would be even more obvious. That's right, this is the feeling of home. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose slightly, and the smile that came from the bottom of her heart was extremely brilliant. Nan Gongwu was about to return and cultivate properly when she saw a young disciple energetically running over. As he ran, he shouted, "Madam, the patriarch is back!" Hearing this voice, Nan Gongwu was slightly stunned, and then a trace of astonishment appeared in her eyes. She only wondered if she was hallucinating. After hearing this, Mu Lingbing's reaction wasn't much better than Nan Gongwu's. She quickly walked out of the room and saw the figure running over. She hastily asked, "What did you say?" "Madam, the family head is back," the young cultivator said happily. Receiving another confirmation, Mu Lingbing couldn't contain her excitement. "You're back. He's finally back." However, Nan Gongwu tightly tugged on his clothes and asked, "Only the Lan family head came back?" "No." The man shook his head. "Miss, young master, and palace lord, you have all returned." Hearing this, Nan Gongwu and Mu Lingbing exchanged glances. Their faces were filled with joy and surprise. Nan Gongwu couldn't help but jump up and scream, "They're back! They're all back! Yeah, let's go and take a look." Mu Lingbing couldn't care less about her image. She grabbed Nan Gongwu and ran out. She had to see for herself that this wasn't an illusion. Patriarch, young Mississippi, son-in-law, palace lord you. Along the way, the Lan family disciples all bowed, and everyone's faces were filled with smiles. Young miss and son-in-law haven't returned since they left. I didn't expect that they would return with the patriarch today. How delightful. Of course, young miss has always been my idol. I'm so happy to see her again. Chapter 5576. Why haven't I seen mother and master's wife yet? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked forward. Many elders had rushed over after hearing the news. Someone had already gone to inform them, but she didn't understand why they hadn't seen them yet. Whether it was Mu Lingbing or Nan Gongwu, Bailey Hongzhuang missed them dearly. They were the most important women in her life. It wasn't just Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng were also looking in the direction of Mu Lingbing's residence. Noticing this, Shangguan Yingying and the rest exchanged looks. They had long heard that both House Master Lan and Palace Master Yu doted on their wives. Now it seemed that the rumors were true. Just as everyone was pondering, two beautiful figures quietly appeared in everyone's line of sight. When Mu Lingbing came out, she immediately noticed the familiar figures in front of her. Her eyes couldn't help but moisten. After waiting for so long, the people she cared about the most had finally returned. Hongzhuang. Mu Lingbing glanced at Lan Yunxiao before rushing to Bailey Hongzhuang. Mother, I'm back. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles as tears flickered in her eyes. Even though they had only reunited for a short time, she was well aware of her mother's love for her. Mother and daughter embraced each other. Feeling the warmth and familiar scent in her embrace, Mu Lingbing's heart was filled with satisfaction and joy. Hongzhuang, you're finally back. After a while, Mu Lingbing released Bailey Hongzhuang and carefully examined her. Has it been hard on you these past few years? I see that you've lost weight. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head with a smile. Don't talk about me. You're the one who's really lost weight. She could clearly feel that her mother had lost weight. It must have been because she was worried about them. Who told you not to come back earlier to see me? I've been thinking about you every day, so I lost weight. Mu Lingbing's tears turned into a smile. Your daughter is unfilial, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice with an apologetic look in her eyes. A mother would be worried about a son traveling thousands of miles. In fact, she had always known that her parents and relatives must be worried about her. But there were too many things that she couldn't free herself from in a short period of time. This guilt had always existed in her heart. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious expression, Mu Lingbing held her hand and shook her head. Silly girl, I was just saying. I know you're filial, and there must be a reason why you didn't come back. At the same time, Nan Gongwu looked at Yu Linfeng with tears in her eyes. When she was about 10 meters away, Nan Gongwu stopped. Looking at the figure in front of her, who was much thinner than before, her heart was extremely complicated. The nervousness, worry and anxiety of the past few days all rushed to her heart in an instant. All these years, no matter where she went, she was always with Yu Linfeng. They had never been separated for such a long time. Perhaps these days weren't long for others, but for her, it was like 3 autumns in a day. It was too hard to bear. Yu Linfeng looked at the familiar figure, and his handsome face broke into a warm smile. In the next moment, he opened his arms and looked tenderly at Nan Gongwu. Nan Gongwu smiled when she saw this, but as she smiled, she couldn't stop her tears from falling. She quickly walked forward and ran into Yu Linfeng's arms. Chapter 55-77. Yu Linfeng's heart ached as he looked at the petite woman, sobbing uncontrollably in his arms. Guilt and self-blame welled up in his heart. In truth, he was well aware of Nan Gongwu's dependence on him. He could guess that when he wasn't around, Nan Gongwu would be at a loss for what to do and worry about him all day. However, he had no other choice back then. If it weren't for his good luck and coincidentally meeting Hongzhuang and the others, he would have been dead by now. So even now, he still believed that his decision was the right one. At least, this was much better than being separated forever. Wu-er, it's all my fault. Don't cry. Yu Linfeng's voice was extremely gentle as he caressed Nan Gongwu's hair. His handsome face was filled with adoration and heartache. Look, Hongzhuang and the others are back too. Don't make a fool of yourself. However, Nan Gongwu, who was in a state of sadness and joy, couldn't stop crying. She buried her head in Yu Linfeng's chest, unwilling to lift her head. Yu Linfeng didn't force her, and only gently patted Nan Gongwu's back. Di Beichen and the others only smiled faintly at this scene. They didn't think that Nan Gongwu was making a fool of herself. On the contrary, this scene made them feel exceptionally warm. Mu Lingbing pulled Bailey Hongzhuang with a face full of smiles. Then she looked at Lan Yunxiao and said in a light voice, "How did you two coincidentally come back together? Isn't that so?" Lan Yunxiao raised his brows. Father and daughter are connected by heart, so we coincidentally ran into each other. Really? Mu Lingbing was surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Isn't that so? Moreover, my father and master are so handsome and elegant. They're very conspicuous. She knew very well that her father didn't want her mother to know what had happened before. He didn't want her mother to worry. She understood her father's deep meaning, and naturally wouldn't say it out loud. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly at the way the father and daughter were singing the same tune. She didn't suspect anything. In fact, no matter if it was Bailey Hongzhuang or Lan Yunxiao, they were both characters that were hard to ignore. Everyone, don't just stand here. Let's go in and take a seat. After Mu Lingbing recovered from her excitement, she quickly called out to everyone. We've been on the road for so many days. You must be exhausted. I'll get someone to prepare some food. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It's been a long time since I've tasted my family's cooking. You've been gone for so long. Now that you're back, you can't leave so soon. Of course, Bailey Hongzhuang replied with a smile, but a complicated look flashed through her eyes. She also didn't want to be so far away from her mother. She only hoped that she could go to the upper realm with everyone. She just didn't know if her father would change his mind. At this moment, Xiren suddenly spoke up. Di Beichen, Yingying and I won't stay here any longer. Mu Lingbing hurriedly said. It wasn't easy for us to come here. No matter what, we have to eat here. Many thanks, Auntie. Xiren smiled faintly. But we've been gone for a long time. Now that we've finally returned, we want to hurry back and take a look. If we have the chance, we'll definitely come back again. Di Beichen nodded. Then you two can go back first. It'll be quick to go back after passing through 2 transportation arrays. Mu Lingbing understood Xiren and Lan Yunxiao's feelings. Then Auntie won't keep you here today. Come again next time. Chapter 5578. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen escorted Xiren and Wenxinya to the teleportation array. Xiren, you guys should return to the Consort sect first. When the matter is almost settled, we'll meet up at the Tiangang sect, Di Beichen said after some thought. The Tiangang sect and the Consort sect had an excellent relationship. In addition, they practically grew up together, so it was very convenient for the 2 sects to communicate with each other. Xiren nodded slightly. No problem. I'll send someone to pay attention to whether or not you've arrived at the Tiangang sect. By the way, how long do you plan to stay here this time? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. Although they all hoped to stay at home for a while longer, the threat of the upper realm was always there. This time, they had actually spent a lot of time rushing back. Although the Xiao family and the Jun family were damaged, no one knew what would happen in the future. Obviously, they couldn't stay here for too long. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, a helpless expression on her face. I haven't thought about it yet. I only hope to bring them to the upper realm. However, you've seen my father's attitude. I don't know how long it will take to convince him. Let's go back and try to talk about this idea. Hopefully my father will agree, Xiren sighed. Originally, he was full of confidence about this. However, he wasn't completely sure now. Let's take it one step at a time. Everyone, go back and understand the situation first. It won't be too late for us to contact each other and think of countermeasures after we figure it out, Di Beichen said. Okay, then let's talk about it this way. In any case, we've just returned. There's no need to be too anxious. After sending off Shangguan Yingying and Xiren, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen continued to walk back to the family. Bai Li Yanche and Ling also came out of the Chaos Ring. Originally, they had planned to come out when they were at Penglai Island. However, many things happened later, so they didn't come out for the time being. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to the house, they found that Nangong Wu's emotions had clearly calmed down. Although her eyes were still red and swollen, she was clearly in a good mood. At this moment, the 4 were happily chatting in the house. Both Mu Lingbing and Nangong Wu were very interested in Penglai Island's matters. Fortunately, the in-law gave us a lot of spirit stones. Otherwise, we would have been paupers when we arrived at Penglai Island. But after arriving at Penglai Island, they finally understood how precious these stones were. Were truly precious. But after they arrived at Penglai Island, they finally understood how the Hongzhuang Island's island was. Low-grade spirit stones were already exceptionally precious on Penglai Island. However, Diyujua had given them high-grade spirit stones. According to their understanding, almost no one on Penglai Island possessed high-grade spirit stones. I didn't expect spirit stones to be equivalent to gold coins. Without them, it's really hard to move an inch. Mu Lingbing and Nangong Wu listened with great interest. They had never encountered such situations before, and only found it exceptionally interesting. Only when they noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' appearance did the four turn their heads. However, when they saw Bai Liyin Che and Ling they were all stunned. A trace of amazement flashed through their eyes. Such a handsome man and beautiful woman were truly eye-catching. Chapter 55-79. What a charming young lady and young man. Nangong Wu's eyes were filled with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were already first-rate good-looking. She always felt that no one could compare to them. However, the man and woman in front of her were filled with a completely different exotic charm. Not only were they good-looking, but they were also very special. The more she looked at them, the more she felt a certain charm. It didn't matter that the two of them had countless suitors. No matter where they were, they would be noticed at first glance. Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng looked at each other. On their way back, they hadn't seen these two youths. Why did Hong Zhuang and Yin Jinqing bring these two back with them? Could it be that these two were their friends from before? However, they had just returned. How could they meet so coincidentally? Seeing the four elders' curious expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt a burst of interest. She smiled and said, "Let me introduce you. This is Ling and this is my younger brother, Bai Liyin Che." Hearing Bai Liyin Che's name, Mu Jins also became interested. Bai Liyin Che? He's also surnamed Bailey? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and smiled. It's just that coincidental. Since you're Hongzhuang's friends, then you're guests. Please sit. Mu Jins greeted them. Why are you here so coincidentally today? Di Beichen and the other two looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's interesting appearance and couldn't help but want to laugh. Lan Yunxiao naturally noticed the change in their expressions. He frowned and his deep eyes were filled with thoughts. He suddenly asked, "Hongzhuang, are you hiding something from us?" Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. You really don't know Ling but Yin Che, you're very familiar with him. Hearing this, the four elders were all stunned. Their gazes all landed on Bailey Yin Che. They clearly didn't remember this figure. Moreover, Bai Liyin Che's appearance was so outstanding. If they had seen him before, it was impossible for them not to have an impression of him. We're very familiar with him. Nangong Wu was puzzled. When had she ever seen such a handsome man? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, very familiar. She still remembered that when Nangong Wu first saw Bai Shi, she only felt that he was especially handsome. She always liked to pet his head, and would never forget about him when there was good food. Bai Liyin Che also looked at Nangong Wu with a smile. He also remembered the time when he interacted with Nangong Wu. Now that he was back, Nangong Wu couldn't recognize him. How is this possible? Nangong Wu was incredulous. Could it be that I lost my memory? Mu Lingbing's expression was similar to Nangong Wu's. How could she not remember such a man who left such a deep impression on her? Lan Yunxiao looked at Bai Liyin Che in front of him. After pondering for a while, an impossible thought appeared in his mind. However, he quickly erased it. It was almost impossible. Hongzhuang, don't keep us in suspense. Just tell us directly. Nangong Wu really couldn't think of anything. This curiosity was driving her crazy. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and turned to look at Bailey Yin Che. Yin Che, it's better if you say it yourself. Chapter 5580. Facing everyone's curious gazes, Bai Liyan-che smiled faintly and said, I'm Bai Shi. I'm Bai Shi. Following these words, Nangong Wu and the others were clearly stunned for a moment. Immediately after, the four of them widened their eyes. Their shocked expressions were completely different from their usual calm and collected demeanor. Nangong Wu quickly walked forward and carefully sized up Bai Liyan-che. Previously, because she didn't know Bai Liyan-che's identity, her attitude was still rather distant. Now that she knew everything, her attitude was completely different. You're really Bai Shi? That's impossible, right? Nangong Wu looked at the perfect side profile in front of her. Aside from being good-looking, there's no similarity between the two of you at all. Could it be that the two of you are colluding to tease us? Bai Shi actually transformed into a human? This was what shocked Mu Lingbing the most. Many people knew that a contracted beast could transform into a human. When a demonic beast's strength reached a certain level, it could transform into a human. But until now, they had never seen such a thing, so they had never thought in this direction. A contracted beast transforming into a human. How shocking was that? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Isn't that so? Bai Shi's cultivation talent is very high. A few days ago, he successfully broke through to human form. Lan Yunxiao sighed inwardly. There was truly an insurmountable gap between the lower realm and the upper realm. This kind of thing was almost impossible in the lower realm. If Hongzhuang and the others hadn't gone to the upper realm, Bai Shi probably wouldn't have been able to reach this step. That was indeed a more suitable place for cultivators. Previously, this possibility had appeared in his mind, but he didn't say it out loud in the end, because the probability was too low. Bai Liyan-che saw that everyone was still in shock, and didn't seem to believe his words. He immediately transformed into Bai Shi in front of everyone. Looking at the familiar yet even more majestic white lion in front of them, Nangong Wu and the others finally believed it. It really is a white lion, Nangong Wu exclaimed. Oh my god, this is unbelievable. Previously, I felt that Yan-che looked a little different from the rest of us. He was especially good-looking and gave off a slightly different vibe. Now I finally understand where the problem lies. Mu Lingbing was enlightened. Even if demonic beasts could transform, there were still some differences. Hearing Linger's words, Yu Linfeng couldn't help but look at Linger. Linger had an indescribable quality that was very similar to Bai Shi. Hongzhuang, could it be that Miss Linger? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. Linger is also my contracted beast, but I contracted her when I was training, so you've never seen her before. After receiving this affirmative answer, the four of them sighed. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang had encountered many fortuitous encounters without them knowing. Everyone was already used to the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang could contract multiple demonic beasts. Nangong Wu looked curiously at Linger. Linger is so beautiful. Could her true form be a fox? Everyone knew that the Fox clan produced the most beauties. Linger shook her head. I'm not from the Fox clan. I'm from the Dragon clan. Chapter 5581. It wasn't just Nangong Wu. Mu Lingbing and the others were also shocked when they found out that Ling was from the dragon race. Among the many demonic beast races, the dragon race was undoubtedly one of the most outstanding. There were many stories about the dragon race, but the dragon race had always been mysterious and powerful. Most people's thoughts about the dragon race existed only in guesses and rumors. But now, a real dragon had appeared in front of them. Moreover, it was Hongzhuang's contracted beast. This was truly shocking. I've also never seen a real dragon before, but it seems that dragons are all beauties, Mu Lingbing said with a smile. Ling was originally a bit uncomfortable under everyone's scrutiny, but when she felt everyone's kind and joyful gazes, her thoughts changed slightly and she calmed down. Hongzhuang's relatives were undoubtedly very close. Hongzhuang, you're really amazing now. Yu Linfeng gave her a thumbs up. You've really broadened our horizons. In the past, we've never seen a real beast king until we saw Bai Shi. Ling Er is the same. Lan Yunxiao smiled, his voice filled with pride. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly his pride. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, who would have believed it? I'm just lucky. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Although she had worked hard all this time, she had also had a certain amount of luck. If she hadn't been lucky enough to obtain the Chaos Ring, she wouldn't have received the Holy Maiden's inheritance. Perhaps she would have already died in the training grounds. Ling Er, can you transform into your true form? Nan Gongwu looked at Ling Er with some embarrassment. She knew her request was a bit unreasonable, but a real dragon really made her curious. Wu Er. Yu Linfeng's voice was somewhat reprimanding. Although Ling Er was Hong Zhuang's contracted beast, since she had transformed into a human, she couldn't be treated as a demonic beast. This kind of request was truly inappropriate. Nan Gongwu was undoubtedly very obedient to Yu Linfeng's words. She immediately said, I was just speaking casually. Don't take it to heart. Seeing this, Ling Er also smiled and said, No problem, this is not a big deal. She was well aware of the human race's curiosity towards the dragon race. In fact, the dragon race had always been a powerful existence. It was just that there weren't many of them. The heavens were fair. If they gave you great strength, they would also give you something else. So the dragon race couldn't compare to other demonic beast races. It was precisely because of this that many people had never seen a real dragon. So it was normal for them to have such curiosity. Even if she had only interacted with them for a short time, she could feel that the people in front of her were very kind. Seeing Ling Er agree, Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little surprised. According to her understanding of Ling Er, she had always had an indifferent temperament. Basically, she wasn't very willing to do such a thing. In this regard, she had never thought of forcing Ling Er. If she wasn't willing, then forget it. However, Ling Er's agreement still made her very surprised. In the next moment, Ling Er directly walked into the courtyard and transformed into a dragon in the blink of an eye. Chapter 5582. So this is the dragon race. The records in the books weren't this good. Nan Gongwu was shocked as she looked at the lines that resembled art. The white dragon's body glowed with rainbow colors under the sunlight, looking as magnificent and colorful as colored glass. Even though Ling Er had restrained her aura, she could still feel the dragon's might. Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng's reactions weren't as exaggerated as the two girls, but they were still shocked inside in their hearts. Although they'd had some guesses about the dragon race from the records and rumors in the books, they only understood the gap between their guesses and reality when they saw it with their own eyes. Isn't that so? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Ling Er is an especially good-looking existence among the dragon race. Mu Lingbing agreed. No wonder Ling Er is so beautiful even after transforming into a human. She's an especially good-looking dragon herself. The usually quiet Ling Er blushed when she heard the crowd's praises. She transformed back into her human form and stood next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Ling Er's skin is thin. She'll feel embarrassed with so many of you crowding around her and discussing her, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Hearing this, Nan Gongwu withdrew her curious gaze. That's right. Ling Er is a young lady. It's not good for us to crowd around her like this. Mu Lingbing noticed Ling Er's awkward expression and immediately understood. You've all rushed here and are probably tired. Why don't you go back inside and rest first? Wait until the banquet to eat something. How about it? Mu Lingbing asked with concern. All right. No one had any objections. Although they'd been on the flying carriage for the past few days, they were still a little tired from the continuous journey. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen didn't mind, but Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng were still injured and needed to rest. After returning to her room, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a surge of warmth in her heart as she looked at her spotless house. It seemed that even though he had been away for so long, his parents still sent people to clean his house, waiting for him to come back. I haven't been back for a long time. Everything feels so warm. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang immersed in happiness, Di Beichen's heart also felt warm. Since you're back, stay here for a while. Can I? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. There were still many things in the upper realm that they could not let go of. Of course. Di Beichen nodded. The Xiao family and the Jun family suffered heavy losses this time. They won't be able to recover in a short period of time. Besides, even if they want to cause trouble, the family isn't afraid of them. I still hope that I can convince my parents to leave with us. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. She missed the feeling of home. Don't worry, we definitely will. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to sit on his lap and wrapped his arms around her soft waist. We just came back today, so it's not a good time to talk about this. In 2 days, I'll go and have a good talk with father-in-law. How about it? Bailey Hongzhuang placed her hands on Di Beichen's and nodded. I believe in you. Chapter 5583. The Lan family banquet was bustling with activity. When the cooks found out that the master, eldest miss, and young master had all returned, they all worked hard to prepare their signature dishes. The entire family was in a joyous mood, and discussions surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, with the appearance of Bailey Yinche and Ling there was no doubt that 2 more people had joined the discussion. Just as Nangong Wu and the others had guessed, Bailey Yinche and Ling attracted everyone's attention the moment they appeared. Big Sister Mu, you're so lucky to have such a beautiful and outstanding daughter, and such a handsome and powerful son-in-law. Nangong Wu smiled. Even your contracted beast is so good-looking. Ever since they found out about Bailey Yinche and Ling identities, they had a new understanding. One is marked by the company one keeps, and one is marked by the company one keeps. A good-looking person's contracted beast is also good-looking. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing chuckled and instinctively glanced at Yu Linfeng. If you're envious, then hurry up and have one. Nangong Wu clearly didn't expect that she would be caught off guard. She quickly changed the topic. I see that many young men and women in your family have taken a liking to Yin Che and Ling That's to be expected. Mu Lingbing had already guessed this possibility. However, I think that Yin Che and Ling are very compatible. Nangong Wu paused, then looked at Ling and Bailey Yinche who were bickering. She suddenly understood. Big Sister Mu, you're so smart. If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have thought of this possibility. Haha. It's hard to say what's going on between the younger generation. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly, then turned to Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Today, the kitchen staff has prepared everything that we can think of. Try it and see if you like it. Looking at the various delicacies in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang took 2 bites and praised. The taste is naturally excellent. Lingbing, did you tell father-in-law about Hongzhuang's return? Lan Yunxiao put down his chopsticks and asked. The 2 elders were undoubtedly more eager than them for Hongzhuang and Beichen's return. Don't worry, I've already sent someone to inform him. Mu Lingbing nodded. However, father is currently in closed-door cultivation. He should be here tomorrow. Only then did Lan Yunxiao relax. That's good. The elders of the Lan clan toasted them one by one, celebrating everyone's return. Young miss, will you still be leaving this time? The great elder asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. We're only staying here for a while. We'll still be going out to train in a few days. There was no doubt that it wasn't appropriate to tell everyone about the upper realm. So Bailey Hongzhuang only said that they were going out to train, and didn't talk too much about it. I can sense that young Mrs. Aura is much stronger than before. I wonder what cultivation level you've reached. The second elder was curious. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were only sitting there quietly, he could feel an inexplicable pressure. This kind of pressure made him feel extremely terrified. It was as if the eldest young miss only needed a thought to kill him. This was something that he thought was impossible, but this feeling really existed. Chapter 5584. In fact, the second elder wasn't the only one who felt this way. They felt the same way as well. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and said, "We've already cultivated to the purple realm." After hearing this answer, the hearts of all the elders trembled. In fact, everyone had always thought that cultivation was endless. However, they didn't understand what was above the purple realm. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had already cultivated to such a realm at such a young age. It was really amazing. Their eldest young miss was truly a genius. "Young miss, what's the realm above the purple realm? Can you tell us?" The second elder, Lan Borong, blushed and said, "To be honest, I've lived to this age and still don't know what's above the purple realm. I can only find out from young Mississippi." Second elder, "It's not just you. We don't know either." When the Lan family's old master, Lan Hongtai, saw this scene, he felt a burst of pride in his heart. His granddaughter and grandson-in-law were really capable. Facing the curious gazes of the elders, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "Since all the elders are so curious about this, I'll explain it properly. After the purple realm is the starlight realm, and the nebula realm. Each realm also has 9 levels. I didn't expect there to be 3 more realms after the purple realm. I wonder what realm young miss is in now? I'm in the nebula realm now." When these words came out, everyone was dumbfounded. When the young miss left, she was only in the purple realm. In just a few years, she had already reached the nebula realm? 3 realms in a row. If it was an ordinary person, who knew how many years it would take to cultivate? However, the young miss actually did it so easily. This was too shocking. No wonder I felt that the young miss aura was so terrifying. It turns out that the gap is so big. It wasn't just the elders and disciples. Even Lan Hongtai and the others couldn't help but be shocked when they learned of Bailey Hongzhuang's true cultivation. This kind of cultivation speed was really shocking. So the upper realms are actually so terrifying. Nangong Wu lowered her voice and sighed. She had always known that Hongzhuang was a cultivation genius, but she also understood that if Hongzhuang had stayed here all the time, it would have been impossible for her cultivation to reach such a level in just a few years. The upper realm was indeed a cultivation paradise. Yu Linfeng nodded slightly. He was also shocked by this point. After just one trip to Penglai Island, he felt that Penglai Island's cultivation speed was much faster than the outside world. Needless to say, the upper realm was much stronger than Penglai Island. If he had the chance, he really hoped to go to the upper realm. That was a more suitable place for cultivators. "Young miss, you're really amazing. With this kind of cultivation, there's no need to fear anyone." I don't know where the young miss went to train. Such a speed of improvement is really frightening. If I had the chance, then it would really be. Even if you go, you can't compare to the first Mississippi. Although all the disciples understood this point, their blood was still ignited. If they could also have such powerful strength, then they could really do whatever they wanted in the future. For a time, many people were looking forward to the opportunity to train together with the young Mississippi. Chapter 5585. That night, many of the Lan family's cultivators couldn't sleep. Bailey Hongzhuang had described a brand new world to them, making them understand that this world wasn't as simple as they thought. There was an even vaster world with even higher realms. And now, the eldest miss they had always admired was walking at the forefront. News of Lan Yunxiao and Bailey Hongzhuang's return immediately spread throughout the Shengxian continent. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had always been the focus of attention, so when they mysteriously disappeared, many people were very surprised. Regarding this, Tiangang sect only said that they had gone out to gain experience. However, no one doubted it. As long as one was a cultivator, they would always go out to gain experience, not to mention a sect master, who needed to raise his cultivation. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had returned, everyone was even more curious. They didn't know what cultivation they had reached after going out to gain experience for so long. After all, Tiangang sect, Lan family, Limitless Palace, and other powers added together was an unshakable colossus. Everyone couldn't help but be concerned. Early the next morning, Si Tuyen and Mu Jin's arrived at the Lan family. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest immediately rushed over after hearing the news. Di Beichen was even more excited. Si Tuyen had raised him and was undoubtedly the closest person to him. I heard that Hongzhuang and Beichen are back, so I immediately rushed over. Is this true? Si Tuyen no longer had his usual calmness. His face was filled with surprise and excitement. This old fellow rushed over after hearing the news, not caring how early it is. Mu Jin smiled. Hongzhuang is really back. Mu Lingbing looked at their anxious expressions and smiled. Don't worry, they're really back. I've already sent people to inform Hongzhuang and Beichen. They should be back soon. You guys can sit for a while. Beichen's constitution has been completely resolved, right? Si Tuyen asked with concern. Lan Yinchao nodded. It's already been completely resolved. Who knows how good he looks now? His cultivation has also greatly improved. You'll definitely be shocked when you see it. That's good, that's good. Si Tuyen heaved a sigh of relief. Although he had heard of this news before, he still couldn't completely feel at ease without seeing him in person. Since even Lan Yunxiao and Lan Xuanyu said so, it proved that there really was no problem. While they were talking, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang rushed over. Master! Di Beichen had a pleasantly surprised smile on his face. Looking at that familiar face, he felt an indescribable sense of intimacy. Scenes of his master raising him, as an adult, seemed to appear before his eyes. From when he was just a toddler learning how to walk to when he started his own family, bringing him everywhere to experience and improve his cultivation, teaching him how to use the sword at the back of the mountain, bringing him to drink. All of those scenes made him feel incomparably nostalgic. Beichen! Si Tuyen's face was also filled with ecstasy. He felt as if his grandson who had been away for a long time had finally returned home. When everyone saw this scene, they all sighed in their hearts. They knew very well that even if Di Beichen and Si Tuyen weren't related by blood, the relationship between the two of them wasn't any less than that of a real grandfather and grandson. Chapter 5586. Hongzhuang, you're finally back. Quick, let grandmother take a look. Have you lost any weight while you were away? Mu Jinsei carefully sized up Bailey Hongzhuang before a satisfied smile appeared on her face. Good, you're still so pretty. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled when she heard that. Grandmother, you're also a great beauty. Haha, you're such a sweet talker. Mu Jinsei patted Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand. You can't leave so soon after coming back this time. Spend more time with grandmother and your mother. You don't know, but while you were away, your mother had been waiting for you to come back every day. Mu Lingbing saw that Mu Jinsei had sold her out the moment she opened her mouth, and couldn't help but say, Hongzhuang, your grandmother is also waiting for you to come back every day. She's always talking about you, but she doesn't talk about it anymore. Mu Jinsei's expression changed as she said, Lingbing you. Hearing all this, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt her heart grow warmer. Grandmother, mother, I know you're all thinking about me. Her exquisite face was filled with a blissful smile. I've always been thinking about you too. I hate that I can't be with you all every day. It would be great if that could be the case. Mu Jinsei couldn't help but sigh. After Di Yujua had appeared, her feelings had undoubtedly been extremely complicated. If they hadn't found the Di family, then Beichen would have been able to come back after his body's condition was resolved. But now that Beichen had found his family, he naturally couldn't stay here forever. She was happy that Beichen had found his family, but when she thought about how her child wouldn't be able to stay by their side often, she felt a little sad. After everything that had happened, what she yearned for the most was to be reunited with her family. Actually, this isn't impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. After a short discussion, Si Tuyen suddenly said, Beichen, did Xiren and Yingying come back with you? We're back. We're back together. Di Beichen smiled lightly. But we just returned yesterday, so Xiren and Yingying returned to the Cloud Word sect first. Situ Yen nodded slightly with a heavy expression on his face. It's good that you're back. You made it in time. Seeing the change in Situ Yan's expression, Di Beichen couldn't help but ask, Master, did something happen? Why do you have such an expression? When Bailey Hongzhuang heard the conversation between the two, she couldn't help but look over with a concerned expression. Xiren and Yingying were their good friends, so they naturally cared about them. Something has indeed happened to the Cloud Sword sect recently. Situ Yen sighed, and his expression was filled with helplessness. Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but ask, what exactly happened? Sect Master Wen of the Cloud Sword sect went out to gain experience a few days ago to search for an opportunity to break through. Yet he never imagined that he would offend an expert and be heavily injured. He fled with heavy injuries and returned to the Cloud Sword sect extremely carefully. Yet he never imagined that the rage of that expert hadn't dissipated at all. Moreover, that expert intentionally let him return for the sake of finding out where he came from. Now that expert has even spread the news that the entire Cloud Sword sect will be annihilated 7 days from now. So the current situation of the Cloud Sword sect can be said to be extremely terrible. Who's so arrogant? Di Beichen's eyes sank, and his voice unconsciously carried a trace of viciousness. Even if there was enmity between two cultivators, it wouldn't affect their family. Chapter 5587. I don't know either. Sect Master Wen contacted me after this incident, but according to his description, I'm unable to determine who it is. Situ Yen had a difficult expression on his face. He had been the sect master here for so many years, so he knew the experts of the Shengxian continent very well. However, according to Sect Master Wen's description, he could not think of such a person in his mind. Sect Master Wen's strength is considered outstanding even among the various sect masters. To be able to injure him to such an extent, and even dare to speak so arrogantly, it must be a peerless expert, right? Mu Lingbing's eyes rippled with contemplation. She had never heard of this before. On one hand, it had only happened recently, and on the other hand, she didn't know who this expert was. Situ Yen nodded slightly. According to Sect Master Wen, this person's strength is extremely strong, almost exceeding his understanding. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. If they hadn't been to Penglai Island and the Upper Realm, they wouldn't have been able to understand this at all. However, after experiencing so many things, they understood that this person's strength had most likely surpassed the Purple Realm and was at least at the Starlight Realm. Otherwise, Sect Master Wen wouldn't have such a feeling. Grandfather, is Sect Master Wen's injury very serious? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was filled with concern. Although she hadn't seen Sect Master Wen before, he was Xiren's father. Needless to say, Wen and Xiren would be heartbroken when they returned and saw this scene. It's very serious. Many doctors and alchemists in the sect have gone to see him, but the results weren't very good. Situ Yen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, since you're back, why don't you go take a look? Among the doctors he knew, Bailey Hongzhuang was the best. Many doctors and alchemists were helpless. Perhaps he could get a trace of hope from Bailey Hongzhuang. Then let's set off now. Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly said. For this kind of matter, the earlier the better. If they were late and something bad happened, it was something none of them wanted to see. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded. Among the various sects, the Cloud Sword sect had always had a close relationship with them. In addition to the brotherhood between Xiren and Di Beichen, this matter naturally couldn't be left unattended. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen set off, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng also decided to follow them. Yu Linfeng. Everyone was a little worried about the sudden appearance of this peerless expert. Master, if that guy is really in existence above the Starlight Realm, then he's an existence that surpasses everyone in the Shengxian continent. Even the playful Xiao Hei felt the seriousness of the matter after hearing this news. Her brows were tightly knitted, and her face was filled with worry. That's right. Compared to other things, perhaps this is the most important problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. She didn't know what level the other party's strength had reached, nor did she know if they could deal with him. Chapter 5588. Logically speaking, it's very difficult for a Starlight Realm cultivator to appear in the cultivation resources of the lower realms, but it's not completely impossible. Di Baichen was also immersed in his thoughts. This situation really caught them off guard. Previously, they were worried that something like this would happen, so they hoped to bring their clans and sects to the upper realms. Although there were powerhouses everywhere in the upper realms, under such circumstances, everyone could also improve faster. Sometimes, being in such a situation wasn't a bad thing. On the contrary, ignorance was the most terrifying. However, he didn't expect that just as he started to worry about this problem really happened. This was undoubtedly terrible. Didn't that guy say that he'll come to destroy the Cloud Sword sect in 7 days? We'll know when we see it with our own eyes. The cold voice was cold and sharp, and the phoenix eyes that were as black as ink rippled with a deep and cold light. Even if they didn't know what kind of guy the other party was, since he had provoked them, they definitely couldn't let him go. Cloud Sword Sect. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were undoubtedly in an extremely bad mood at this moment. They originally thought that after returning this time, they would see a happy and harmonious scene. Xiren thought that this time, he would be able to hold his head high in front of his old man. Previously, his old man had always said that his vision wasn't broad enough, and wanted him to go out and gain experience. After going out this time, his strength had increased a lot compared to before. However, he didn't expect to see his heavily injured father after returning. When Jinghui was lying on the bed at this moment, the injuries on his body were shocking, and one of his hands was gone. He had often seen his father injured since he was young, but it was really the first time he saw such serious injuries. Xiren, why don't we go look for Hongzhuang? Hongzhuang's medical skills are so good, she must have a way. Shangguan Yingying anxiously paced back and forth. She really didn't expect such a scene to happen. For a moment, she was so anxious that she didn't know what to do. Father said that he has already told Sect Master Situ about this matter. As long as Hongzhuang and the others see Sect Master Situ, he will definitely mention this matter. Once Hongzhuang and the others know about it, they will definitely come over. We don't need to make an extra trip. Xiren pulled Shangguan Yingying back. Presently, what we have to worry about the most is stabilizing the hearts of the people. After this incident occurred, all the disciples of the Cloudsword sect were in a state of panic, and there were even many people that wanted to flee first. The Cloudsword sect is Father's painstaking effort. I can't let it disperse just like this. No matter what, the Cloudsword sect was his roots, and it was the place he'd lived since he was young. His mother had left early, so his childhood memories were of his father and the Cloudsword sect. Even if his father normally wasn't good at expressing his feelings, he understood his father's feelings towards the Cloudsword sect. If the Cloudsword sect were to collapse just like this, then that would be something that his father was most unable to accept. Shangguan Yingying nodded when she heard this. You're right. All the disciples are discussing this matter. What do you think we should do? Stabilizing the hearts of the people. This matter was simple, but the hearts of the people were the most difficult to predict. If they wanted to stabilize the hearts of the people, then they had to make everyone be filled with confidence towards the Cloudsword sect. Yingying, don't worry about it. Leave this matter to me. Chapter 5589. Just as the two of them were talking, Di Baichen and his group had arrived. Ziren. Di Baichen quickened his steps and walked in front of Ziren. You're here. Ziren's lips curled into a smile. I knew you'd come today. How's Uncle? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with concern. Shangguan Yingying walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, her delicate face filled with anxiety. Hongzhuang, it's good that you're here. Father's condition is very serious. Quickly go and take a look. All right, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded solemnly. Quickly take me to have a look. Yingying, take Hongzhuang over first. We'll be there soon, Ziren said. Immediately after, Bailey Hongzhuang followed Bailey Hongzhuang and quickly rushed to Sect Master Wen's residence. On the way, Shangguan Yingying was also anxiously explaining the general situation to Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, we can only rely on you now. Shangguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with hope. The latter was undoubtedly carrying all their hopes. This time, the serious injury caused a huge blow to father. I feel that his entire condition has become very bad. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She still had some doubts in her heart. However, when she saw Sect Master Wen, she suddenly understood what Shangguan Yingying meant. In her line of sight, Sect Master Wen was lying on the bed. His originally handsome face looked extremely old at this moment. Even his hair had turned white. He was dispirited and listless, as if his vitality had been forcefully taken away by something. His eyes were dim and lifeless. Father, Hongzhuang is here. Shangguan Yingying called out softly. Her slightly trembling voice was filled with heartache. She'd stayed in the Cloudsword sect since she was young, and she'd taken Wen Jinghui to be her own father since long ago. At this moment when she saw him in such a state, how could her heart not ache? Wen Jinghui then turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang, the corners of his lips pulling out a smile with difficulty. Hongzhuang, you're here. Uncle, let me take a look at your injuries, Bailey Hongzhuang said softly. Wen Jinghui waved his hand. It's useless. I know my body. It can't be saved. Originally, when he fled back, he was quite glad that the heavens didn't want him to die. However, after returning, he found that his body's condition was getting worse and worse. So many doctors and alchemists came, but it was useless. Presently, he'd already given up hope, and the only thing he regretted was that if he knew the outcome would be like this, then he shouldn't have returned at that time, and he wouldn't have implicated the entire Cloudsword sect. The only thing that comforted him was that he was still able to see Ziren and Yingying before he returned. And this was already the preferential treatment that the heavens had given him. Uncle, your condition isn't that bad. Don't give up so quickly, Bailey Hongzhuang said hurriedly. Shangguan Yingying spoke out as well. Father, the other doctors and alchemists can't treat you because their standards aren't high enough. However, you know how strong Hongzhuang is, so you can be at ease and let her treat you. Wen Jinghui looked at Shangguan Yingying and smiled lightly. I know you're filial. With Wen Jinghui's cooperation, Bailey Hongzhuang carefully examined Wen Jinghui's injuries, and she instantly gained a trace of understanding in her heart. Hongzhuang, is father's injuries related to the energy of darkness? Chapter 5590. That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It seems that this guy might have come from the upper realm. Awakening one's innate talent could only be done in the upper realm. She had previously thought that this guy might have come from Penglai Island, but now she was certain. Although she couldn't figure out how this guy came from the upper realm to the lower realm, such a guy would indeed pose a great threat to the Shengxian continent. Then can father's injuries be treated? Don't worry. If it was before, it would be a little troublesome to treat, but I'm the Saint of Light now, so this shouldn't be a problem for me. With the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang falling, Shangguan Yingying breathed a sigh of relief, and her whole body was at ease. As long as her father was fine, they could think of other ways. Wen Jinghui had already given up hope, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's confident words, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, a thick look of surprise appearing in his eyes. Did he hear wrongly? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Uncle, you don't have to worry. I'll be able to heal you soon. But you'll have to think of another way to heal your hand. When Jinghui's hand was already gone, so if he wanted to regrow it, he would have to find another way. When Jinghui nodded, he had already given up on this point. However, the news that he was still alive was undoubtedly extremely shocking to him. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang began to use the power of light to heal him. In fact, when Jinghui's injuries weren't complicated, the reason why the doctors were helpless was because they couldn't stop the destructive power of darkness. Not only that, that guy was very despicable. He even left a trace of darkness in Wen Jinghui's body when he attacked. It was this dark power that was constantly destroying Wen Jinghui's vitality. If they had come back 2 days later, Wen Jinghui would have been exhausted to death by this dark power. As an extremely warm light appeared from Bailey Hongzhuang's body, Wen Jinghui only felt an indescribable sense of comfort. The feeling of collapse from before seemed to have disappeared in an instant, and even his breathing became smoother. The power of light and the power of darkness were opposites to begin with, so under the influence of the power of light, the power of darkness quickly dissipating into nothingness in the blink of an eye. When Jinghui looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, he had never seen such a method before. When that ray of light appeared, he only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had become sacred and inviolable. She was as holy as a fairy from the 9th heaven, giving people an indescribable feeling of nobility. Most importantly, that kind of power made people feel comfortable for no reason. This feeling was transmitted from every corner of his body. It was no different from a cleansing of his marrow and meridians. Uncle, do you feel better? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Even though his injuries had yet to be healed, Wen Jinghui's mental state was already much better than before after eliminating the dark energy that was constantly destroying his body. Wen Jinghui nodded. Much better, Hongzhuang. I didn't expect you to be so powerful now. Yingying and Xiren are also very powerful, so you don't have to worry. Don't worry, Xiren can handle the 7-day agreement. Chapter 5591. When Xiren and the others arrived, they saw that Wen Jinghui had recovered a lot. Immediately, Wen Xiren breathed a sigh of relief, and a long-lost smile appeared on his face. Even though he wasn't proficient in medicine, he could tell from Shangguan Yingying and the others' expressions that there shouldn't be any problems. Hongzhuang, many thanks. Xiren suppressed the excitement in his heart. Even though he had always appeared to be strong, he still couldn't calm down after seeing his father's condition. Now that he saw this scene, he was completely at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. With our relationship, do you still need to say such words? Alright, take it that I said something wrong. Hongzhuang, how is Sect Master Wen's condition? Situyen asked. He and Wen Jinghui had been friends for many years, and had a very close relationship. Although Wen Jinghui was Xiren's father, the age gap between them wasn't very big because he married and had children at a later age. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. He just needs to recuperate for a while. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's good. Situ Yen revealed a smile and looked at Wen Jinghui. I told you not to despair. You can be at ease now. Wen Jinghui chuckled. It seems that my luck this time is really good. After Bailey Hongzhuang bandaged Wen Jinghui's wounds, everyone began to discuss the situation. Sect Master Wen, please tell us the ins and outs of what happened. This way, we can think of a countermeasure, said Lan Yunxiao. Alright. Following that, Wen Jinghui recounted everything that had happened back then. It turned out that Wen Jinghui had gone out to train this time, to find an opportunity to break through. During this process, he found a place with extremely dense origin energy. It was a good place for cultivation. No cultivator would be willing to miss such a good cultivation cave, so he went in to take a look. However, he didn't expect that the cave had already been occupied. After discovering this, He immediately wanted to leave. He didn't expect that the other party would be so furious at his appearance that he didn't even have the slightest chance, and directly wanted to take his life. He didn't care too much at first, but after the other party made a move, he felt the other party's terrifying strength. He didn't have the slightest room to resist. However, after heavily injuring him, the other party didn't directly take his life but let him leave. He originally thought that the other party didn't intend to take his life, but he didn't expect that the other party had actually been following him for the sake of destroying the entire Cloud Sword sect. The other party's strength was very strong. I didn't notice that he was following me until he appeared in the Cloud Sword sect. When Jinghui's S's S after Savov's S's S. The other party should be a cultivator of the darkness attribute, but I don't know how he came here from the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Sect Master Wentz was unable to heal because of the dark energy. Chapter 5592. So that's how it is. Although they didn't know what method the other party used to come to the lower realm, just like how they could return, others might be able to find a loophole. Maybe he's from the same clan. Didn't Ling Xiao go to Penglai Island because of this? Shengguan Yingying said. Darkness attribute cultivators are ostracized in the upper realm and have a hard time. However, it's a different situation in the lower realm. He's an existence that completely transcends everyone. Di Baichen said in a low voice. The reason he followed the Cloud Sword sect might not be to destroy the sect, but to seize it for himself. Now, he understood the situation of the darkness attribute cultivators in the upper realm very well. Logically speaking, it was too exaggerated to destroy a sect because of such a small matter. However, from Sect Master Wen's strength, he could guess that his background wasn't simple. It was too troublesome to build a new force on his own. It was undoubtedly the easiest way to get rid of the sect master and replace him. What you said is very possible. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. However, it's also his bad luck that he chose the wrong person. Her beautiful voice carried a trace of coldness. If the other party was a cultivator of another attribute, perhaps they would be worried. After all, no one knew if the other party was stronger than them. However, after knowing the other party's attribute, they were completely at ease. The darkness attribute cultivation method had disappeared for many years. The other party didn't have a corresponding cultivation method, so his strength definitely wouldn't be high. This point could be seen when they first saw the group of darkness attribute cultivators. Situ Yen, Wen Jinghui, and the other seniors looked at the four juniors seriously analyzing, but their minds were in a mess. This was because they didn't understand the situation. Even if the four juniors analyzed clearly and logically, they couldn't even say a word. So according to what you're saying, this guy, can you deal with him? After a long while, Lan Yunxiao concluded the crux of the problem. Hearing this, the four youths smiled and nodded. If there are no accidents, it should be so. When Jinghui's eyes widened, perhaps Situ Yen and the others didn't know, but he knew the other party's terrifying strength very well. However, the four of them actually said that they could deal with him. Wasn't this too frightening? Xiren, you guys actually improved so much this time? When Jinghui found it hard to believe. In fact, he was quite familiar with Penglai Island. But even the cultivators of Penglai Island couldn't compare to this man's strength. That's right. When Xiren nodded proudly. Father, you're right. We still have to go out and see more to see a wider world. I actually wanted to bring you with me when I came back this time. Haven't you always liked to see the vast world? There's a good opportunity now. After we've dealt with this matter, let's go together. What do you think? When Jinghui sth. A tyrannical aura erupted from Wen Xiren's body. However, Wen Xiren controlled it so that it did not affect Wen Jinghui. Chapter 5593. This aura. It's exactly the same as the powerhouse I met before. When Jinghui's eyes were filled with shock. Previously, he did not know how to use words to describe the other party's strength. He only felt that it was a strength that completely exceeded his understanding. At least, he had never met such a terrifying opponent in the Shengxian continent for so long. However, after Xiren released his aura, he was shocked to find that his son had only left for a short period of time, and his strength had reached such a terrifying realm. After sensing Xiren's aura, Situ Yen and the others secretly sighed in their hearts. This level of strength was something they had never come into contact with before. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang displayed her strength on Penglai Island, they were also extremely shocked. Xiren and the others had only been in the upper realm for a short period of time, but they had already reached such a terrifying level of strength. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the strength of the upper realm was. Those powerhouses who had always lived in the upper realm must have extremely shocking strength, far beyond their imagination. When Di Yujue first came, they instinctively felt that Di Yujue's strength was very powerful. It was a kind of strength that was felt from the soul. However, from the beginning to the end, Di Yujue had never displayed his strength, so they did not know what Di Yujue's cultivation was like. It was only now that they had a more specific understanding. Without thinking, they knew that Di Yujue's strength was definitely much stronger than Xiren and the others. That was a world that was completely stronger than the lower realm. Hearing Wen Jinghui's words, Xiren's face revealed a trace of a smile. If he was still worried before, now that he heard his father's words, he could rest assured. It seemed that the other party's strength was indeed not very strong. They could completely deal with it. Father, you can rest assured now. Even if I can't do it, Beichen and Hong Zhuang are both stronger than me. The other party is just courting death. When Xiren smiled. At this moment, Wen Jinghui naturally understood. His heart that had been hanging in the air finally relaxed. He was worried that the Cloud Sword sect would be destroyed in his hands. He'd spent so much effort, and he absolutely couldn't let it disappear just like that. By the way, father, what do you think of my proposal? Xiren asked with a smile. Shang Guanyin also smiled and said, Father, the upper realm suits your requirements very well. You'll definitely like it. She had followed Wen Jinghui since she was a child, so she knew Wen Jinghui's character all too well. He only wanted to pursue higher cultivation. Due to the lack of cultivation resources in the lower realms, Wen Jinghui's strength had never been able to improve. If he went to the upper realms, he would definitely improve quickly. Wen Jinghui pondered for a moment, then smiled and said, Then first, we have to make arrangements for the sect. Hearing this, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying both smiled in surprise. Father, does that mean you've agreed? When Xiren, who was still in a state of surprise, could not help but ask for confirmation. Ever since Lan Yunxiao rejected Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion, he had been worried about this problem. Perhaps to them, abandoning the sect was not a difficult matter, but to the elders, it was simply impossible. However, after seeing his father agree to his request so quickly, he found it hard to believe for a moment. Chapter 5594. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying both breathed a sigh of relief after receiving this affirmation. Although there were many dangers in the upper realm, there was still a chance for them to improve. However, if they stayed in the lower realm, it would be troublesome if something like this happened again. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other after noticing this. How they wished Lan Yunxiao would agree so easily. In fact, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng also exchanged glances. Compared to Wen Jinghui, they seemed to be thinking too much and complicating things. With all the knots in his heart untangled, and his injuries gradually recovering, Wen Jinghui's condition improved a lot in a short time. Since it's a 7-day agreement, there aren't many days left. Why don't we stay here for the time being? Sitian suggested. Wen Jinghui nodded and hurriedly called out to Xiren. Xiren, quickly arrange a place for us to stay. Brother Situ, I really have to thank you this time. What's your relationship with me? You're still being so courteous. Sitian patted Wen Jinghui. Rest well and don't worry about anything else. You have a good son and a good daughter-in-law, so you can rest assured. The last time he spoke with Wen Jinghui, he could clearly feel the former's worry and helplessness. Although he wanted to comfort Wen Jinghui, he couldn't think of a good way to do so. Fortunately, everything was easily resolved now, so they could be completely at ease. Isn't this all thanks to Beichen and Hong Zhuang? Wen Jinghui was full of smiles, his eyes filled with pride and gratitude. Xiren and the others already told me that if it weren't for Beichen and Hong Zhuang taking care of them, they might not have been able to keep their lives. Uncle, it's only natural that they've been helping us. Di Beichen said. Because of my physique, Xiren and Yingying went to Punglai Island to help me. I know the relationship between you two brothers. You must always be good in the future. Wen Jinghui looked at Xiren and Di Beichen with gratification. Although the two of them were not biological brothers, they were closer than biological brothers. Their relationship had always been very good over the years. Definitely, the two of them spoke almost at the same time, their expressions full of determination. After leaving Wen Jinghui's house, Wen Xiren led Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to their residence. Actually, in the Cloudward sect, Si Tuyen and Di Beichen had always had residences that belonged to them, because in all these years, both of them would frequently go to each other's sects, so they both had their own residences. The Tiangang sect similarly had residences for Xiren and Wen Jinghui. However, this was the first time Lan Yunxiao and the others had come here, so when Xiren rearranged everything. After settling everything, Xiren said, Seniors, you should all rest first. This matter has caused quite a stir in the sect, so I still need to go and deal with it. Hearing this, everyone nodded and said, Then quickly go and do what you need to do. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stay in the house, but went out to see if there was anything they needed help with. Chapter 5595. When Xiren nodded. Indeed, that fellow even released his own pressure, allowing many disciples to clearly sense it. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen sighed with emotion when they heard this, and merely by hearing it, one could guess how shocking the situation was to all the disciples at that time. Even Sect Master Wen was extremely shocked by such formidable strength, let alone these young cultivators. Probably many people were directly terrified out of their wits. It's exactly as all of you think. When Xiren shrugged, his face filled with helplessness. So the entire sect is in a state of panic now, and there are even some cultivators that have directly fled. The Cloudsword sect had stood towering for so many years, and even though there were many disciples that were loyal and devoted to it, but there were similarly many people that valued their own lives more. Presently, all the disciples of the Cloudsword sect didn't have the mood to cultivate, and all of them were pondering the problem of whether they should leave or stay. If they left just like this, it would be too heartless, but if they didn't leave and left their lives here, it would be too much of a pity. After thinking about it, everyone was hesitant and uneasy, and they completely didn't know what to do. What do all of you think we should do now? The sect master is already heavily injured, and even if the young sect master returns, it would be of no use. Wait, don't be anxious. Didn't the sect master of the Tiangang sect come as well? Perhaps this matter will take a turn for the better. In my opinion, it's probably very difficult. All of you have felt how terrifying that expert strength is. I wonder how the sect master offended such a terrifying opponent. It's truly terrible. All the disciples discussed with each other, and all of them had their own plans in their minds. When Xiren and the others arrived, They heard sporadically some conversations, and they weren't surprised by this. Every man for himself, and the heavens take the hindmost. What everyone valued the most was naturally their own life and future. After they saw when Xiren and the others appear, all the disciples went silent. Xiren sized everyone up before saying, "I understand what everyone is thinking now, but I still have to tell everyone that the matter this time isn't a big deal to our Cloudsword sect, so there's no need for everyone to panic. It's impossible for them to cause any damage to our Cloudsword sect in the 7-day agreement, much less destroy it." His sonorous and powerful voice was like a reassuring pill, causing the originally unstable heart to calm down. Faced with Xiren's confident look, everyone immediately felt more at ease. However, there were still many disciples who had doubts. One had to know that even the sect master was injured to this extent. Even if sect master Situ was slightly stronger than the sect master, it couldn't be by much. It was obviously difficult to convince everyone with just one sentence. "Young sect master, is the opponent that strong? Have you thought of a solution?" Xiren glanced at the person who asked the question, and the man immediately shrank back. "It seems that no one has confidence in me." Everyone looked at each other. Even though they had such thoughts in their minds, no one dared to say it out loud. "Since that's the case, I'll let everyone have a taste of my strength, so that everyone can feel at ease." As soon as his voice fell, when Xiren's aura swept out in all directions, in just a short moment, everyone felt as if dark clouds were covering their heads. A powerful and terrifying aura enveloped them. Chapter 5596. No one had expected when Xiren's current strength to be so powerful. Everyone stared blankly at the warm figure in front of them, and their hearts were already in a state of shock. How terrifying! This was simply too terrifying. Even though the young sect master had previously told them the same thing, none of them believed him too much, because the gap between them was simply too great. However, it was only at this moment that they realized that the young sect master's powers were not any weaker than the peerless cultivator, whom they had previously thought to be. As when Xiren retracted his aura, the crowd burst into an uproar. "Heavens, I never thought that the young sect master would be so powerful. It seems that we don't have to worry anymore. I feel that the young sect master's coercion is not any weaker than that cultivator's. I can finally relax. I can have a good night's sleep tonight." The crowd heaved a sigh of relief. Recently, they had been unable to eat or sleep well, which had made them feel extremely helpless. Fortunately, they could finally relax after thinking about all of this. When Xiren heaved a sigh of relief when he noticed the changes in the crowd. Even though they had lost quite a number of disciples in this incident, as the young sect master, he felt that it was not a bad thing to eliminate some people through this incident. There were still a few days left, but those fellows had already left in a hurry. It was clear that they had no feelings at all. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It seems that all words are not as effective as the deterrence of power. Of course, power is still the most important thing. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the entire sect to fall into such a situation with just one person. Shangguan Yingying secretly sighed. "Initially, we had wanted to do this yesterday, but we weren't sure how powerful the other party was, so we didn't take any action for the time being. However, it seems that all of this isn't a big problem now." Shangguan Yingying heaved a sigh of relief. "Now that I think about it, I still feel a little scared. If we hadn't returned at the right time, I'm afraid that we would have been in trouble." As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt the same way. "We're really lucky to have returned this time. If we had returned a little later, both my father and sect master, one would not have been able to escape this disaster." Bailey Hongzhuang understood Shangguan Yingying's feelings very well. She had the same feeling when she was on Red Moon Island. Perhaps it was all luck. "So God is kind to us and let us catch up." Shangguan Yingying smiled. Although he had experienced a period of fear and trepidation, fortunately, Everything was developing in a good direction. By the way, my father has already agreed. Has Uncle changed his mind? Xiren suddenly asked. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. We haven't talked about this topic since then, but I hope that what happened today will change father's mind. I think it should have some effect. Shangguan Yingying pondered and said, I noticed that Uncle's expression changed a little at that time. I hope so. Let's have a good talk after this matter is settled. Di Beichen said. In fact, he also wanted to find a suitable time to talk to his father-in-law, but he had not found it yet. I can try asking Mother. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In her opinion, dealing with Mu Lingbing was easier than dealing with Lan Yunxiao. Chapter 5597. After when Xiren stabilized the hearts of the people, the entire Cloud Sword sect returned to its former tranquility, and everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Compared to the nervousness and worry from before, everyone was extremely curious about this 7-day agreement now, and they wanted to know what kind of scene it would be when the time came. At the same time, this news was also known by all the forces. Even if the matter of Wen Jinghui being heavily injured was intentionally concealed, it was still inevitably leaked out in the end. Many cultivators who fled successively sought refuge with other forces in order to find a place to stay, and in the process, they naturally couldn't help but speak of this matter. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100. Although the distant forces didn't know, the nearby forces had practically already heard of it. Sect Master Wen's strength is extremely strong. I saw him make a move once before, and many people weren't his match. This time, he was actually heavily injured, and even suffered a calamity, truly unlucky. Don't speak too slowly. It's said that young Sect Master Wen has already returned, and Tianjing Sect's Sect Master, Situ has also gone over. Perhaps this matter will take a turn for the better. In my opinion, you're thinking too naively. The other party dared to say such vicious words. It can be seen that he has sufficient confidence. Sect Master Situ's strength is indeed not weak, but compared to Sect Master Wen, could it be that the other party didn't understand this beforehand? Such a conversation was practically played out in the various forces. And in the end, the vast majority of people firmly believed that Cloud Sword Sect was going to suffer a calamity this time. As for helping, they had never thought of it at all, unless they wanted to throw their own forces into it as well. How close are these fellows normally with me? Now, all of them are looking for excuses. When Jinghui looked at the reply in his hand, and it was difficult to conceal the rage on his face. After this matter happened, he was worried that Cloud Sword Sect would be powerless to resist, so he sent out letters to some close friends, hoping that they could help him. However, after understanding the strength of Xiren and the others, he was completely at ease, and originally wanted to tell this news to everyone so that they didn't have to worry. But he received a reply. In closed-door cultivation recently? Heavily injured and unable to make a move? Going out to look for his daughter who was wandering outside? What kind of messy reasons were these? Even if he wanted to make up a story, he had to make up a convincing one, okay? He helplessly realized that apart from Situ Yen, almost everyone else was running away if they could. This kind of perfunctory reason was obviously that they had already determined that he was finished this time, and they didn't even bother to pretend to be polite. Looking at Wen Jinghui's angry appearance, Situ Yen sighed and said, You still don't know what kind of people they are? This kind of reaction is very normal. How many of them were true friends who would go through life and death together? Moreover, most people would make such a choice when their entire force was involved. To think that these fellows usually speak so nicely, when Jinghui's anger could not be quelled. If anything happens to them in the future, I will definitely not pay attention to it. It's good that you've seen it clearly. You've always been such a loyal person. This kind of thing isn't a bad thing for you. Sitian sighed. He and Wen Jinghui had known each other for many years, so he knew Wen Jinghui's character very well. Wen Jinghui was a man who valued friendship and righteousness. Most of the time, Wen Jinghui would even neglect Sitian. Chapter 5598. You still have the nerve to talk about me. When Jinghui, who was originally flustered and exasperated, suddenly laughed after hearing Si Tian's words. I've already fallen into such a desperate situation, and you still want to help me. Haha. Si Tian also laughed. We've been brothers for so many years. That's true. What's the point of thinking about those fellows? What a waste of time. When Jinghui smiled in a carefree manner, although he had misjudged people in his life, being able to befriend Si Tuyen was undoubtedly his greatest gain. As night fell, the entire world was covered by a layer of black veil. Everything was silent. When Xiren originally planned to find Di Baichen for a drink, and wondered if he would disturb the two. However, before he reached his residence, he saw Di Baichen's figure and was surprised. Don't you usually not come out at this time? Di Baichen looked at the wine jug in Xiren's hand. Didn't I guess that you would come looking for me? That's why I specially came over. Hearing this, Xiren looked suspiciously at Di Baichen. Why did he feel that something was wrong? Where's Hong Zhuang? She's with mother-in-law. When Xiren suddenly came to a realization. I was wondering why a man like you, who treats his wife like his life, would want to drink with me. It turns out that you've been abandoned by Hong Zhuang. You're alone tonight, ha ha ha. Di Baichen looked at Xiren, who was laughing without a care in the world. His long and narrow eyes narrowed. Xiren, sometimes it's not good to be too smart. Ha ha, I don't care. Just let me laugh for a while. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang, Mu Lingbing, and Mu Jin sat together. The three women were like a drama. Moreover, they had not seen each other for a long time. They simply had endless things to talk about. Hong Zhuang, I think Sect Master Wen is planning to go to the upper realm with Xiren. Is that really okay? Mu Lingbing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously. When she had first heard Xiren ask about Wen Jinghui, she had already wanted to ask, but the circumstances had not been appropriate. Bailey Hongzhuang had long wanted to have a good talk with her mother about this matter. Now that she heard her mother bring up this topic, of course, she was even happier. That's right, it's possible. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Actually, that's why we came back this time. We hope to bring you to the upper plane with us. That way we won't have to be separated. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mu Lingbing and Mu Jin looked at each other. That's a good thing. Mu Lingbing's face was full of joy. To her, there were many things she could let go of. As long as she could be with everyone, that was enough. But there are as many powerful cultivators as there are clouds in the upper realm. With our current strength, going there will be very dangerous. Mu Jinsei frowned. Grandmother, when I first went to the upper realm, wasn't it the same situation? But now, I can keep up with everyone. When I'm not strong enough, I can stay at home and cultivate. When I'm strong enough, it won't be too late to go out and train. Bailey Hongzhuang was in high spirits. In her opinion, all of this was not difficult to solve. But Mu Jin's expression was still somewhat conflicted. She felt that there were still some other problems that had not been solved. Hong Zhuang, have you told your father about this? Mu Lingbing asked. Chapter 5599. Mu Lingbing's eyes flashed with confusion. Rejected? Why is that? I don't know either. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and elegant face was full of distress as she looked pitifully at Mu Lingbing. Mother, it's not easy to come back from the upper realm. If possible, I really hope that you can all go together. Ever since she'd found out that a darkness-type cultivator had come here, her sense of danger had grown even stronger. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's serious expression, Mu Lingbing and Mu Jin's understood her sincerity. Hongzhuang, don't be anxious. I'll have a good talk with your father later. Mu Lingbing patted Hongzhuang's hand. I understand that you're a filial child and want to take us with you. However, your father must have his reasons for rejecting us. Once I've figured it out, we can discuss it again. How about that? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. All right. If you don't want to, that's fine too. I'll come back when I have the chance. After changing the subject, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly thought of something and smiled. Grandmother, mother, Beichen's family has prepared many things for me to give to you. They say that they want to thank you for marrying me to Beichen. Mu Lingbing was taken aback. They've already given us many things when they came. How can they give us more? I've already said that, but Beichen's grandmother and mother insisted. That's why I brought them over. Xiaohei nodded. They said that it's their fortune that you're willing to marry a darling like Master to Beichen. They want you to express your sincerity. Seeing that Xiaohei was beaming with joy, Mu Jins reached out and pulled the mischievous little girl into her arms. You little girl, you're really a living treasure. Xiaohei also liked Mu Jinsei very much. Lying in Mu Jinsei's embrace, she closed her eyes comfortably. This feeling of being smoothed down was really comfortable. Although the two had already guessed that the D family wouldn't be stingy, they were still shocked when they saw what was inside. Heavens, so many treasures! Mu Jins looked at the things in front of her and didn't know what to say. These things, no matter which one it was, were all very valuable in the lower realms. But now they were piled up here like cabbages. It was too unbelievable. Hongzhuang, how big is the D family in the upper realm? With so many treasures, his foundation must be terrifying. Mu Jinsei was clearly thinking more. These things, even the entire sect wouldn't be able to take out. The D family is also a first-class aristocratic family in the upper realm. They are very powerful. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. These things aren't important to us. But from this, we can see that their family values and likes you very much. I can rest assured. Mu Lingbing was very happy. As a mother, she cared most about her daughter's well-being. Everything else wasn't important to her. That's right, this is the most important thing. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood the good intentions of Beichen's grandmother and mother. The reason why they had prepared all this, on the one hand, it was their good intentions, and on the other hand, it was to make her family feel at ease. Don't worry, they treat me very well. You don't have to worry at all. Chapter 5600. The 7-day agreement was getting closer and closer, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the 5th day. The entire Cloud Sword sect seemed extremely calm, as if it wasn't affected at all, but everyone could feel the pressure of the coming storm. On this day, someone suddenly came. The sect master of Ancient Profound Sect is here? When Xiren had a puzzled look after hearing the news. Ancient Profound Sect was also a very influential sect in Shengxian continent, but they didn't have much contact with them. In 5 days, almost everyone already knew about the 7-day agreement. Logically speaking, no one should come at this time. After all, no one wanted to implicate their own sect. This Ancient Profound Sect rarely deals with us. Is there a purpose for them to come here today? Di Beichen said solemnly. Although he wasn't in Tiangang's sect these few years, he had already understood the general situation from his master. Obviously, it didn't have much to do with Ancient Profound Sect. After sending someone to receive the sect master of Ancient Profound Sect, Xiren went to Wen Jinghui's residence. Now that Wen Jinghui's injuries were gradually recovering, he could move freely. You said Gu Yanran of Ancient Profound Sect is here? Wen Jinghui raised his eyebrows. Wen Xiren nodded slightly. Father, I always feel that something is wrong with this situation. You should go and talk to him personally. He was the young sect master, and the other party was the sect master. No matter from which point of view, it was better for Wen Jinghui to personally receive him. I'll go and take a look too. Tian stood up. Even if Gu Yanran hadn't explained the purpose of his visit, he vaguely felt that it was related to the 7-day agreement. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't have chosen to come at this time of the storm. Conference hall. Wen Jinghui walked into the conference hall with a smile. Sect Master Gu, I didn't expect you to come today. I'm really sorry for not going out to meet you. Gu Yanran had some doubts in his heart when Xiren said that he was going to invite Wen Jinghui. When he really saw Wen Jinghui, and found that Wen Jinghui's spirit was very good, he couldn't help but be stunned. A trace of astonishment flashed in his eyes. Wen Jinghui and Situ Yin naturally did not miss the change in Gu Yanran's expression. Just by noticing this, they already had some guesses in their hearts. Sect Master Wen, please forgive me for disturbing you today. Gu Yanran cupped his hands and said, What are you saying, Sect Leader Gu? I can't welcome you more than you can come here. What's there to bother you about? After everyone sat down, Gu Yanran said, Actually, I came here today because I have something to say. Speak your mind. I've heard about the 7-day agreement this time. I'm sure Sect Master Wen has been working hard on this matter, right? Gu Yanran looked at Wen Jinghui, his calm face full of confidence. The Cloud's Word sect is Sect Master Wen's painstaking effort. According to my thinking, you ought to not wish to see the Cloud's Word sect be annihilated, right? That's such a pity. Hearing this, Wen Jinghui said without batting an eyelid, Could it be that Sect Master Gu has some good suggestion? My suggestion is very simple. As long as you give up the position of Sect Master and quickly leave here, then the Cloud's Word sect won't have to suffer such a great calamity. You and the young sect master will also be able to keep your lives. How about it? Chapter 5601. Grandfather's guess is right. This sect Master Gu is indeed related to dark attribute cultivators. It seems that he's here today as a lobbyist. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly, and a haze appeared in her eyes. I think he's not a lobbyist at all, but here to show off. Xiren's eyes were cold. Even if Gu Yanran's words were rather polite, he could still clearly feel his disdain and ridicule. That look, it was as if he had already looked down on them, and it was impossible for them to turn things around. It was clearly persuasion, but it carried an aggressive feeling. Wen Jinghui naturally understood the situation in front of him, but he did not immediately flare up, and continued. How did Sect Master Gu know about this matter? Could it be that you know that powerhouse? At this moment, almost everyone's gaze fell on Gu Yanran. Regarding this point, everyone was rather curious. Gu Yanran nodded without any scruples. That's right, I know Master Shen. Immediately after, his gaze circled the surroundings, and then he continued. Sect Master Wen, you and Master Shen have fought face to face. I'm sure you know how strong he is. Even if you have the help of Tiangang sect, it's useless. Master Shen's strength is not something that can be defeated by numbers. Sect Master Gu, that Master Shen is so strong, it should be impossible for him to listen to you. Situ Yen suddenly said. Could it be that your ancient profound sect is already controlled by Master Shen? As soon as these words came out, Gu Yanran's expression suddenly changed, and his voice also turned cold. Master Shen is an elder of my ancient profound sect. If he wants the ancient profound sect, there's absolutely no problem. I'm here today to remind you that all these years, there's still a little friendship between us. so I plan to let you live. Of course, if you don't know how to appreciate favors, crippling the Cloud Sword sect is also a simple matter for us. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at each other. It seemed that this sect master Gu was completely controlled by that master Shen, and he was willing to be controlled. Although Gu Yanran still held the position of sect master, it was obvious that he only existed in name. The entire ancient profound sect was already under the control of Grandmaster Shen. Originally, everyone had some sympathy for Gu Yanran's situation, because the sect could be said to be the painstaking efforts of the previous sect masters. How could they be worried about giving away the inheritance of so many years? However, what Gu Yanran said at the moment made everyone lose all sympathy. It was obvious that he was being controlled by someone, yet he still wanted to use that person's might to intimidate others. Speaking of which, it was very laughable. Sect leader Gu, you don't have to worry about our Cloud Sword sect, when Jinghui said bluntly. If it was before Xiren and the others returned, perhaps he would have made such a choice because he could not ignore the lives of all his disciples. But now he no longer had to worry about this. Ridiculous. Gu Yanran's face was full of disdain. Do you really think you can compete? Let me tell you the truth. Not only Cloudward sect, Tiangang sect and Limitless Palace are all our targets. At that time, all the forces in the Shengxian continent will be under our control. If you don't know what's good for you, you're courting death. What a wild ambition. Chapter 5602. Facing Situ Yan's anger, Gu Yanran remained arrogant. Old man, I'm telling the truth. If you don't know how to adapt to the situation, be careful of implicating all your descendants. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang moved and slapped Gu Yanran's face. You despicable bastard, watch your mouth. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. If I hear you insult my grandfather again, I'll knock out all your teeth. Gu Yanran obviously didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to dare to hit him, and couldn't react in time. Pa! He spat out a mouthful of blood, which surprisingly contained 2 teeth. Looking again, everyone noticed that Gu Yanlong's face was swollen, and even his speech was incoherent. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. What can you do to me here? She wasn't even afraid of the so-called Grandmaster Shen, let alone this Gu Yanran, who was just a fox borrowing the tiger's might. At the same time, Di Beichen, Lan Yunxiao, Yu Linfeng, and the others all looked coldly at Gu Yanran, as if they would beat him into a pig's head if he dared to move. Seeing this scene, Gu Yanran swallowed back the words he wanted to say. If Grandmaster Shen was here, she wouldn't be afraid of anything, but now that he was alone, she naturally had to be extra careful with her words. Otherwise, if these guys went crazy and killed him, he wouldn't be able to do anything. After thinking it over, Gu Yanran could only be a bastard. Master, why didn't you just leave this guy here? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others let Gu Yanran go like this, Xiao He was a little puzzled. This guy was so arrogant. Wouldn't it be more satisfying to just get rid of him? Let him go back and report the resentment he felt today. When the time comes, we'll let him know the truth. Wouldn't that be more interesting? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Xiao He was slightly stunned. After understanding Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning, she couldn't help but sigh. Master, you're trying to anger him to death. I'm looking forward to the day after tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't keep Gu Yanran's arrival a secret. On the contrary, they publicized it. This Gu Xuanzong was so despicable. Because they knew this Grandmaster Shen, they started dreaming. In their opinion, it was ridiculous. He might as well take this opportunity to announce this matter to the public, so that everyone could get to know the true ancient profound sect. When Gu Yanran returned to the ancient profound sect, he immediately went to look for Master Shen. Shen Yaolong frowned after seeing Gu Yanran's embarrassing appearance and said, What's the matter with you? Grandmaster Shen, you have to take revenge for me. Gu Yanran's face was full of indignation. That one Jinghui really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. I let him live. Not only did he not appreciate it, but he also acted arrogantly with Tiangang sect master Situ. They hit you. Shen Yaolong narrowed his eyes. A dangerous look flashed across his eyes. The person who hit me is Wuji Palace's palace master, Bailey Hongzhuang. She's too arrogant. She doesn't put you in her eyes at all. She said she's not afraid of us at all. She despises us to the extreme. Shen Yaolong snorted coldly. This Wen Jinghui really has guts. If I didn't let him live, he would have died long ago. Chapter 5603. Shen Yaolong was full of confidence. When Jinghui had mistakenly barged into his cultivation mansion, and Chu Chu, a Purple Realm cultivator, dared to offend him. Naturally, he was very unhappy. Originally, he wanted to teach Wen Jinghui a lesson, but after knowing that Wen Jinghui was the sect master of the Cloud Sword sect, he felt that it would be good to take down the Cloud Sword sect through this opportunity. In the past, he had been suppressed everywhere in the upper realm, and his life was very unhappy. He never thought that by chance, he would come to the lower realm through a loophole. After coming here, he found that the lower realm was simply heaven. All the cultivators here had strength that did not exceed the purple realm. Even the major families and sect masters would not be able to withstand a single move in front of him. He had heard that the lower realm was a place that could not be compared to the upper realm, but he did not expect the gap between the two to be so big. It just so happened that he had no future in the upper realm. If he stayed in the lower realm, he could be the king of the mountain, and no one could resist him. This feeling was much better than staying in the upper realm. After meeting Gu Yanran, he controlled the entire Gu Xuanzong. After a discussion between the two, he decided to control the entire lower realm. At that time, he would be able to call the wind and summon the rain, and the world would be under his control. Hearing Shen Yaolong's question, Gu Yanran shook his head in confusion. Master Shen, when I saw Wen Jinghui earlier, I found that although he lost a hand, his mental state was not affected. He looked very good. He was very confused about this point. He was very clear about Master Shen's means. That dark power was not something that ordinary people could resist. What did you say? Shen Yaolong was stunned, and suspicion appeared in his eyes. That's impossible. Everyone knew how destructive the power of darkness was, and it was impossible for a Purple Realm cultivator to fight against it. Master Shen, everything I said is the truth. When I saw it earlier, I felt that it was very strange. I don't know what method they used to eliminate it. Tell me everything that happened after you went over. Shen Yaolong became more serious. According to his understanding of the Shengxian continent, no one could destroy his dark power. Such a situation suddenly happened. He had to figure out what was going on. Could it be that other cultivators from the upper realm came here? He had always had some misgivings about this. After all, since he could come here, it also meant that others could come here as well. So he had to be vigilant at all times. Seeing this, Gu Yanran immediately recounted everything that happened after this trip in detail. You said that young sect master, when had gone out to train for a few years, and had just returned? Shen Yaolong raised his voice and asked. Gu Yanran nodded slightly. Yes, not only him, but also the young palace master of Limitless Palace and the young palace master of Heavenly Dipper sect. They all just returned this time. Although they never said where they went to train, there were rumors that they went to Penglai Island. As for whether this is true or not, I don't know. If they really went to Penglai Island, then this matter is easy to understand. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.